London has a history of showcasing the best of women's marathon running, the greats of the sport from home and abroad, with performances that inspired others to follow. Last year's champion, Sifan Hassan, chose to take her talents this spring to Tokyo instead, yet London has still gathered perhaps the greatest ever women's field. 3 of the 4 fastest in history will line up, and at the head of them all, the astonishing Ethiopian Tigist Asefa. In a former career, a world-class 800-metre runner, then injuries and breaks, and reinvented as a distance runner. One who seldom races, but in Berlin last year took over 2 minutes off the world record of Bridget Kosgei. Today, the victory is not the only target. So too the women's only world record of Mary Keitany, set here 7 years ago.
A performance of ambition and a performance of strength.
A separate mark, as a run with no male pacemakers is harder when others around you drop away in the later stages. But this field has such quality in depth. Kosgei herself is here, twice a winner in London. So too another Kenyan in Ruth Chepngetich, victorious twice in Chicago, world champion in Doha. As is the Olympic champion Peres Jepchirchir. And from Ethiopia, the winner in the mile 2 years ago in Yalamzerf Yahulau. It all means that women's only record will surely go. Of course, with new technology on the feet, the game has changed, so times have tumbled. But there is a constant across the years, that the suffering remains and that talent and hard work will bring reward. And wherever the clock might stop, the best will find themselves in front come the end. And the joy of that victory will always be the same.
Tactics could come into play. It promises to be a really exciting one, that one. And tactics certainly came into play for Jasmine Paris, who has become the first woman ever to complete the Barkley Marathons. And I'm delighted to say she is alongside me now, ahead of starting that women's elite race in a few moments' time. Jasmine, so many people will have heard your story and know what you've just achieved with that 100 hours it took to run 60 miles. You have to do it in under 100 hours. You had 99 seconds to spare. What they might not know, Jasmine, is a little bit about the history of this incredible race. Give us, if you can, a little upsum.
Yeah, so it's 60 hours and probably 100, maybe a bit more miles. It came about. It was run in Frozen Head State Park in Tennessee, and it came about as a result of a jailbreak by the person that killed Martin Luther King escaped, and he managed to get in something like 52 hours or 54 hours, managed to get, I think it was less than 10 miles in that time away from the prison. And when they caught him, Gary Cantrell, Laz, as known as Laz, who now organises the race, said, I think, to his friend, I bet you I could run 100 miles in that time. So so that's kind of how the race was born. Yeah, and so 100 miles in the 60 hours, and I managed to finish it with 99 seconds as well.
And there's 5 loops of this, and if you don't make a certain time, you're out by each loop. And not only were you the first woman to ever complete it, I don't think any woman had gone beyond 3 loops of the race before. So so groundbreaking what you did. Tell us a little bit about how you even prepare for something so arduous, so incredibly grueling.
I did a lot of climbing, so kind of sessions where I'd go out for hours at a time running up and down the same hill. I think the most in training was about 4,700 metres overnight. I ran it one night in the kind of snowstorm.
You got up at like 1 in the morning?
Yeah, I got up at 1 and ran sort of for 8.5 hours overnight in a snowstorm actually that time in Scotland, running up and down the same hill.
There you are on the finish line, knowing that you had seconds to spare. And that crowd there obviously willing you to become that first woman. Can you even begin to take us back into your mind and your body at that moment?
I mean, everything was about getting to the gate. Everything kind of in my peripheral vision was blurry, and it was an incredible feeling. The crowd at the finish were just, it was like there were thousands there cheering me on, and I just had this incredible drive to finish it. And looking back and now, I can see how oxygen depleted and hypoglycemic I probably was, but because when I got to the end, I just collapsed. But
have you run since?
I have run, yeah. I've been running the last couple of weeks.
And you're looking forward to this today?
It's going to be amazing, yeah.
Okay, well, get yourself over there because you're going to be pressing the plunger, setting those elite women off, I'm sure, inspiring them as well. So let's hand you over then, shall we, ahead of this elite women's race, a really exciting one for our commentary team today. Hopefully there'll be a few of them going for it down the mile in a couple of hours' time, Steve, with this incredible field. Steve Cram, take it away.
Yes, good morning, Gabby. Good morning, everybody. Lots to look forward to today, particularly in our two elite races to come. And this women's field, as Hugh Brasher, the race director of the London Marathon, has described it as the greatest field ever, and he thinks it will be harder to win this race than to actually win the Olympic Games in Paris later this summer. A wonderful field headed by the new world record holder, Tigist Asefa. And there is also a British place still up for grabs. We have two of our women have been already selected, and those two will be pacemaking, actually, some of the other British athletes who will be trying to join them on the plane to Paris. So let's just go through some of the main contestants. Yeah, Jocelyn Jepkoski looks a little chilly there this morning. Got the arm warmers on. It is a little cool. Has won the London Marathon in 2021, was second in 22 as well, and is in very good form. Former winner Yalamzef Yohalo from Ethiopia. Great start to a marathon career, which was cemented with the win here in London in 22. Fifth in the World Championships last year. And somebody who has won that World Championships, as was mentioned in Andrew's preview, Ruth Chepngetich, former world champion and the fourth fastest runner of all time at the marathon distance. Peres Jepchirchir, well, Peres looks a little chilly as well, doesn't she? And Peres is so consistent, never outside of the top three in a marathon career, and as I said, will be the defending champion in Paris, we think, if the Kenyans select her. Bridget Kosgei, former world record holder, two-time winner here in London, also hoping to try and get on the Kenyan team. That's going to be tough. And then the woman who obliterated the world record in Berlin last year, Tigist Asefa, former track runner, moved up to the marathon because of injuries she was suffering as a track runner, and goodness me, how good has she become. Plenty of others to talk to. We'll be getting them underway first, and then Paula and I will take you through the other stories to watch out for in this elite race. But really looking forward to this. It is chilly, but it's actually quite good marathon running conditions. A little bit of a breeze going as well, but hopefully they can have a great race. So here they go. Perhaps the greatest field ever assembled in the London Marathon in the women's race, heading for what we hope could well be a new women's only world record. Lots of miles ahead, of course. We've got pacemakers to set them up nicely, but what will happen in the latter stages? If you were watching last year, you may well remember they all slowed down a little bit when Sifan Hassan had dropped off, and then she rejoined the main group and went on to win it. So Paula, what do you think we can expect this year?
Well, given what you just said, I think if anybody does stop and stretch, then certainly we will see a picking up from the rest of the field, and no hanging about waiting and gathering themselves. I think there will be a lot of looking around though at this point in the race, because when you've got a field of this caliber together, there's potentially really only a safer in that group who they will allow to run away. Anybody else they will react to. And I think they will be now assessing how the others sound and feel. You can already see it splintering into those expected three groups that we thought would happen with the pace. And they will now settle in behind that wall of three pacemakers at the front and find their rhythm.
Just a word on the British story. You can see a second group there now. The two pacemakers are the two women who have already been selected. Charlotte Purdue is kind of on the left as you look at it, Kelly Thackeray on the right, and then that group behind them, there's the likes of Becky Briggs and Alice Wright. Mary McClellan, who's running her first marathon, will be keeping an eye on that. The qualifying time for the Olympics is 2:26:50. Now, other women do have that time, and I should mention that Rose Harvey is the quickest of our women, ran 2:23 last year in Chicago, and was actually running in Nice this morning in the half marathon to kind of show her fitness to the selectors. But that's a story that Paula and I will. She actually ran quite well in Nice, ran just under 72 minutes, so we'll be keeping an eye on the progress of the British athletes in that quest for the third spot. See if anybody running today can challenge for that. Well, this may well be pretty familiar to you. If not, then this is the course. The first 3 miles are pretty quick. Then we turn and head up towards Cutty Sark, one of the great landmarks of the London Marathon route, where the crowds are huge. Great atmosphere through there. But then it gets a little quieter, and they head up towards the area through Rotherhithe, where there's always good support, but perhaps a little quieter, over Tower Bridge, where they will see each other going in 2 directions after halfway, come back along the highway down towards the tower itself. Then you're into the final miles down on the embankment. Could be a little breezy this year along these last few miles. We'll see into Birdcage Walk after turning at Westminster, and then it's the last half mile. Buckingham Palace gives you the sign. It's 400 meters to go to the finish line, and that's where we are sitting with a grand view. We'll be watching this race with great interest. I can say at this roundabout, Bridget Kosgei dropped out last year, so she's done well. She's managed to get at least 50 meters beyond that. She was unfit last year, Bridget, former world record holder, but comes here in pretty good form in the orange there. And we'll talk about a lot of these athletes individually over the next couple of hours, I'm sure. But Asefa, the one everybody is looking towards, can she run away from this field? So they've set it at a pace, I think Paul was mentioning, a 2:15, which would be a good 2 minutes inside the existing women's only world record. However, a good 3 minutes slower than Asefa ran in the world record she set in Berlin in the mixed race. Early stages, and this is the quiet bit of the race, isn't it, Paula? Just click off these early miles.
Yeah, it is just the women out there, and you don't have as much of a noise around as you do later from the championship start and the mass start. But already you can see the pace is quick. We see, I think it's Gebrselassie who's just dropped off the back of this group. Iweala is struggling to stay with it at this point as well, and really champing at the bit in the middle, I think, is Asefa. She looks very, very good, as you would expect at this point, but not even breaking into a sweat there.
I would look good at this point, Paula. It's still early, obviously. Yeah, we will try and keep an eye on the British story further back, as Paula was mentioning. We were expecting this group, that all of the women who are, you know, in that sub 2:20 mark, going with that early pace. But already there's a little bit of a break here, and Becky Briggs and Alice Wright, can see Alice's blonde hair bobbing around there. There's the two slotted in behind the pace there, because although Becky Briggs not there. So Charlotte Purdue on the right, just to her left, Callie Thackeray, already selected in the first round of selection back in February, and using this as part of their preparation, helping out the other British women, trying to set a pace. Meanwhile, back to the wheelchair race.
Well, I think in the women's wheelchair race and the men's wheelchair race, we are going to be having Swiss winners, although the men's is not quite so clear. But here in the women's, this is Catherine de Bruyne, winner a couple of years ago, and she did have Manuela Scher, her fellow countrywoman, for company for a while, but she has broken clear. That's a group of men's wheelchair racers behind her, but it's de Bruyne a long way clear at the moment, Tanny.
Yeah, and she's played a really smart race at the moment in terms of how she's going. And if you look at the results, you can see from this, they're not quite showing the accurate results, because the chips on the chairs sometimes have problems going over the mats, and it all depends where they are on the chair. So the results are not quite showing right at the moment. But de Bruyne is way ahead. She broke from Manuela Scher. Tatiana McFadden was in the pack for a little bit. She's dropped back. But Eden Rainbow Cooper, who didn't have a terribly quick start, is trying to pull them in. And she's in with a big pack of men. They're not allowed to draft, but there will be a little bit protection. But for de Bruyne, she's now been able to pick off some of the slower men, and there's some quite long straights coming up. So not only will she be looking at heart rate and a speedo and everything else, she'll be able to see what's going on.
So in the men's race, well, Marcel Hug was clear, but Daniel Romanchuk, that is Daniel Romanchuk, yes, has done very well to get back there. So these are the top two in men's wheelchair racing and marathon racing at the moment. David Weir was in a group of three with Hug, Romanchuk, and David Weir was in there. Suzuki of Japan got back to make it four for a while. But you can see they're just in the background there. So Hug and Romanchuk just having a little look over. And we thought it might come down to these two in terms of British hopes. You would have been hoping that David Weir could maintain contact and hope for a strong sprint finish, but it's coming down to these two.
Yeah, and they left Romanchuk out front for a while. You know, in the past he has sat on Marcel Hug's wheel, not done anything at the front, so they were letting him take the early pace. Hug's made a couple of attempts to break away. He's still not quite pushing at his top speed at the moment. He's making Romanchuk hurt a bit, but he's keeping it a fairly average pace. So if you look at the predicted finish times, at the moment is 1:25, but the second half is slower for the chairs. But they'll probably be pleased that, you know, Dave is out of the pack. Dave Weir's out of the pack at the moment, because his sprint finish is really strong and they don't want that in the final turn. But it'd be interesting how Hug takes the race from now on. The last couple of times he's been really frustrated with Romanchuk just sitting on his wheel, not doing anything. You could see it in his face. And he's not going to want to lead the whole way again. He's come off Boston, lots of, you know, confidence in terms of his top speed, but he's not going to want Romanchuk just to get an easy ride all the way through.
No, I mean, recent form would suggest that if these two are out in front, and I'm sure they will be come the end, that it will be in the order of Marcel Hug and Daniel Romanchuk, because Romanchuk was runner-up to Hug at Berlin, Chicago and New York last year. And Romanchuk just having a look around to see what the gap is back to David Weir is in that.
He is, and Suzuki as well. And it depends how the two of them choose to work together. If they actually took 45 seconds turn each at the front, and they're very disciplined in how they do that, they do have a chance of pulling them back in. But at this stage of the race, the two of them do need to be working together, because if Hug puts in another kick, he will be, you know, pretty devastating.
Just watching them go around the corners there, and Hug in Boston had quite a crash.
He did.
I don't know why I was chuckling there, sorry.
No,
quite a crash
he was fine.
had.
He took the corner quite fast, and with the chairs, you know, the steering can be a little bit tricky. You don't have a lot to steer. He went into a barrier, he was fine. You know, he jumped back up. You know, he was, you know, course record. He is pushing on different gloves this week, which look like they're 3D printed, which is different from the ones he was racing last week. So we wonder whether he might have done a bit of damage to his gloves. But he's certainly not looking like he's struggling from the crash he had last week.
3D printed gloves, there we are, 2024. Welcome, everyone. That gap actually is bridgeable, isn't it, Tani?
It is absolutely bridgeable at the moment, but it's based on the two of them working together. And see, Hug's now taking a break. You know, I guess they might be having a little word with each other to say, come on, you know, come to the front, do something. There can be quite a lot of chatter in the pack, again, a bit like cycling.
Okay, there we are, the men's race. It's Hug and Romanchuk at the moment, but Weir and Suzuki perhaps closing in on them, and it's De Bruyne out in front in the women's race.
And just a reminder, we have live and uninterrupted coverage of those races on the BBC iPlayer and the BBC Sport website and app for you. But we're going to take a pause from the action, because I've been joined by sporting royalty. Dame Kelly Holmes, no less, is alongside me here today in official capacity as well.
Yes.
Kelly, you have a job to do?
I have. I've got the honour of starting the men's and the masses, and I'm so delighted to be back.
Because you know just what it's like to be out there. You've done this, haven't you? You made it look fairly easy, I have to say.
I've done one. I've done one. I feel a little bit of a fraud when you come with this atmosphere and the hype and everyone very nervous, and I'm just sort of pressing the button, but I have been here before.
You did it, and you did it very, very well, but was that it? Once and out? No more?
I never say never, Gabby, you know. You always get pulled in a different direction.
Well, you're still looking like you do quite a little bit of training there, Kelly. I know it's so important for you training, isn't it, for mental health and physical fitness, and you've talked well about how that sporting life of yours helped you through so many different challenges, and it's 20 years since that double gold in Athens, the 8 and the 1500 metre golds. Here we go. Look at this. I bet you never tire of seeing these images.
20 years. I mean, that's the 800 metres. Who would have thought? I'm sure they'll show the face. Yeah, there we go.
The face of disbelief.
It is. And there's the 1500. Took me 20 years to achieve that dream, and here we are 20 years later.
Does it feel that long?
It doesn't in a way, because I think the Olympic cycles being every 4 years. But also I think it gave me this renewed energy coming into 2024, thinking, why can't I do something else important or positive or whatever, you know what I mean? So I try to keep fit
all the time. You set yourself great challenges, don't you?
I do, because I think it is great. But going back to the running, I just think it's wonderful. We've got so many people running here through all different causes, first of all, don't we? All different levels, different abilities, experiences. And that's what the London Marathon is about, bringing people together. They've got to run till 26.2 miles to get that elusive medal, but how brilliant.
And we've met people already today, Kelly, who started off doing Couch to 5K and then moved on from that. And, just, if you will, tell people how, you can take those small steps, get going, do something, a few minutes every day, and you can build up. I know your career's at one end, the elite, but you've seen how people can do that from the very, very start and humble beginnings.
Every day. I mean, I'm more inspired these days by people that just make a decision to do something firstly for themselves, to set themselves a goal, however small that is. It will then go to the next goal, because you get that bug and you're doing it for yourself. And I think with running anyway, of course there's the physical achievement and attainment, but it's the mental health. It's having that focus and that willingness just to push yourself that little bit more. And as you say, some people here would have only ever started on a Couch to 5K, never thought they would ever start running, and they'll be here today. How amazing is that?
Do you know what? It feels like when you've started this, you might need to get yourself a number and get back out there. I feel like there's way too much energy just to be starting this race and doing nothing else today. Kelly, thank you so much. It's always a great pleasure to chat to you. Jeanette, who have you got now?
Gabby, I've got loads of people here. The start is so busy, but look at this. Look at Scott. He's got an ironing board on his back. He's got no shoes on, and you're coming to run a marathon.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, first marathon. Done a couple of ultra marathons, but this is the very first marathon.
So you decided to go from an ultra marathon to a standard marathon, but with an ironing board and no shoes. Please tell us the reasoning.
It's all for charity, Cardiomyopathy UK. So and it's to support the clubs and things. So yes, it's all for charity. So
no shoes though, Scott.
Well, we'll see how that goes. It's still debatable.
It's still debatable. We're going to see how this goes. A husband and wife team as well. Nick, tell us why you decided to run alongside your wife.
So my wife Kay and I are running this for the National Autistic Society in celebration of our 5-year-old boy Charlie.
Is Charlie going to be out there on the course today?
Unfortunately not. No, he wouldn't really understand what's going on, but hopefully he might see us on TV now. You never know. So.
Oh, isn't that amazing? And tell us how the training's been. Has it been competitive?
My wife's a lot further ahead than I am.
But you'll cross the line together, hopefully?
No. I'm in a different wave to Nick, so yeah. Different target, finish time, so yeah, we'll see. I'll see you celebrate, hope.
But still all good?
Yes, yeah.
And Marco, talk to us about you. This is your first marathon. A round of applause, I think, for a first marathon. Wow.
Thank you very much. I'm a paediatric gastroenterologist at the Norfolk and Norwich University Hospital, the Jenny Lind Children's Hospital, and I care for children with inflammatory bowel disease. I'm supporting Crohn's and Colitis UK and patients with inflammatory bowel disease today.
Amazing.
So very exciting.
Very exciting. I'm sure your colleagues will be watching as well. Have you got people on the course watching?
The whole hospital at home and some people on the course.
Brilliant.
Well, yeah.
Thank you so much. Gabby, lots of people here, lots of people ready to run, all running for great charities as well.
Thank you so much, Jeanette. I'm joined by a triptych of brilliance here and 3 runners of very different abilities.
You're brilliant. You're playing fast and loose with the word brilliance there,
I was going to say professional brilliance. Let's find out about your sporting prowess as we go through the lineup. And if we, I'm guessing from your history, Joel Dommett, Ramesh Ranganathan, Ruth Wilson, that you might be the quickest out there on the course today, ordinarily.
Well,
You're quite a good runner.
I'm running in a fish costume from from Mars Singer, and my main aim today is to run faster as a fish than Romesh as a person. How do you feel about that, Rom?
Well, I mean, listen, I've not felt like a person for a long time, but, so I'm not that bothered. I mean, like, Joel's target time is an hour less than mine in that costume. my target time is to finish while the roads are still closed. You know, that is kind of the aim for me. If I get that, that's me done. That's,
Ruth, you're looking pretty fit there. You're moving well, but you've got a little bit of tape on the knee. Has the training gone well?
Training's gone all right. I mean, it's like, what, 5 months? It's like endless.
Yeah.
I'm glad it's like coming to an end. But it's been good. I'm running with 3 of my brothers and my nephew.
And you're going to stay together?
No. It's going to get competitive.
Right. And let's go through why you're all running, because Ruth, yours is for the Alzheimer Research Charity.
It's Alzheimer's Research UK, and it's for my dad, who was diagnosed 2 years ago. He ran the very first London Marathon in 1981 in an amazing time of 3:15. None of us are going to get that. Well, one brother might try, but yeah, it's my 3 older brothers and my nephew who are running together for my father.
Because you know the really important work that they're doing to try and find some kind of cure for the
Yeah, we
disease,
don't have a treatment yet in the UK, but we're very close. And the idea of Alzheimer's research is to find a cure for this. I mean, it's one of the biggest killers in the UK, so any money, any extra donations, obviously, are very welcome.
And Romesh, we've talked already to some people running for Samaritans today, and a charity-related calm is why you're running, and you know just what that can feel like sometimes when things get a bit desperate.
Yes, I mean, you know, I've talked about it a few times that, you know, I came close to taking my own life in the past, and it's something I feel strongly about in terms of mental health issues, and Calm is a really great charity for raising awareness. And so it was both about raising the money and just raising awareness of the work that they do, you know, so that's kind of why I'm running. And I do want to say, whatever donations I get, I'm going to match them to a limit. Obviously, I don't want to lose my house over
What's your limit?
I don't know, let's just see what happens.
Did you say $1 million to me before?
No, I definitely
said that. He said that.
Joel, as well as drawing attention to your hit ITV show, you're also running for a charity.
I'm running for Shooting Star Hospices. It's an amazing charity that provide incredible end-of-life care to children and bereaved families, and honestly, they've been absolutely amazing. Do you want to have it? It's quite heavy.
What is it, about 8K?
It's something like that. Yeah. Do you want to look inside?
Yes,
just quickly,
what's in it?
right?
About 8K is when I'm going to drop out of this.
So this is the face. I've got like a little light. There's a little light there. I've got my gels.
Wow.
I've got a place for my phone.
It's very cosy in there.
I've got a laptop. I'm going to do my emails. I'm going to have a lovely time.
Have a fantastic time out there on the course today. I'm hoping we might catch up with 1 or 3 of you before we go off air. 3 o'clock on BBC Two, Romesh, if you can make it.
I'm not going to make that, sorry guys.
Have a wonderful time.
Thank you.
Steve Cram, can you update us please as to what's going on in the elite women's race?
Yeah, we can do, Gabby, and it's been quick, but we expect that in the first 3 miles. They've actually run a 4:49 third mile, but it's pretty much downhill, and they're well inside the world record schedule. They're actually inside the 2:15 schedule that they originally said, but it's settled down a little bit, but all of the men and women there was a little bit of confusion at the first feed station, Paula, with I think Ruth Chepngatic and one of the others. I can't remember which
we
one.
thought it was Bridget Kosgei, didn't we?
No, it was Ruth and I think Chep Karui who had to go back for the bottle.
But they are all fueled again now and settling back into the rhythm. You can see the pacers doing a good job of checking their watch. That is 4 miles that they've just gone through, so we should get an idea of whether that pace has settled down. And this is the chase group behind with Alice Wright and Mary McLennan.
Yeah, going very nicely actually. The first 5K, as I said, it is a bit quick, so the pace is 2:26, which was a little quicker than they'd asked for, but it is inside the Olympic qualifying. But I expect that to settle down somewhat once they get through 10K. But Charlotte Purdue, Callie Thackeray doing a good job for the 2 of them there. Alice Wright just getting rid of something. Let's see what's happening in the wheelchair.
Well, in the women's race, Catherine de Bruyne still out and clear and heading surely for victory, just in terms of those who are further back down the road. Cher and McFadden, De Rosario, Eaton, Rainbow, Cooper. The men's race is slightly more interesting in terms of who might win it, because the group of 2 of Hug and Romanchuk, that's Hug out front at the moment, Romanchuk in 4th. They were joined by the other 2 of David Weir and Tomoki Suzuki. So Tanny Gray-Thompson. This is interesting, and Hook just having a look around. Tactics.
There's a lot of cat and mouse going on at the moment. No one's particularly willing to do too much work at the front. You see Romanchuk a little bit at the back. There's nothing to worry about. They're letting Suzuki make some breaks, but not letting him get too far away.
And poor old Suzuki in third place there, he would, in a sprint, he would lose out in the latter stages against any of these three.
He would, so he needs to be trying to conserve his energy, but they keep sort of forcing him to the front as well. So it's going to be really interesting how the 400 meter sprint works, and at the moment my money is still on Hook.
Hook out front, David Weir in his 25th consecutive London Marathon, chasing a ninth, an improbable ninth victory, but Hook still the favourite. Daniel Romanchuk at the back in that blue helmet as well in fourth place. We'll keep a keen eye on him as they come across Tower Bridge. Another famous landmark passed, Hook out in front, David Weir in touch.
Well, still relatively early stages there. A reminder, if you want to continue to watch live, uninterrupted coverage of all the elite races, they are on BBC iPlayer and the BBC Sport website and app. But we're going to head back to Jeanette now. She's got more special runners aiming to race themselves into the record books.
Oh, yes. Is it the London Marathon if you do not have world record attempts? I'm going to start with you, Yogesh. Now, you're going for the fastest marathon in Indian traditional dress, right?
That's correct. So the record's 4.5 hours. I'm raising funds for children with cancer and food for all. And also, this is a tribute to first-generation Indian immigrants who've come to the UK, carved a beautiful future for us second-generation people. It's a tribute to them. If you want to donate, the link is linktree/Yogesh Chitani.
You've done very well getting your link in there, Yogesh. Fantastic. Who designed your outfit for you?
This is an Nehru suit, which I normally wear to Indian weddings, which is a bit strange. And this has come all the way from Santa Cruz Market in Bombay.
Wow, looking good. Looking good. What?
The slippers are clocks.
Very good, right. Other slippers are available. Gus, you've got DJ decks on, right? Now, official world record attempt, fastest marathon as a DJ.
That's right, yeah, fastest marathon as a DJ. I've got to do it in under 5 hours, carrying about 10 kgs.
Well, you're going to do well. We're going to maybe get some tunes for you in a second. Who are you running for today?
I'm running for Cancer Research UK.
Amazing. Now, Georgie, can you hear me under there?
Yep, I can hear you.
Fantastic. We've given her a microphone. She's got a full inflatable costume. World record in a full inflatable, right?
Yep, that's correct.
And who are you, Georgie, who are you running for today?
So I'm running for Team Shelter today to help everyone have a home and for Give Directly.
Georgie, is it warm in there?
It's very warm.
And it's going to get warmer. What kind of time are you looking for?
So I need to beat 5.5 hours.
5.5 hours. We think you can do it. You're going to hear the cheers through there?
I hope so. You have to shout really loudly.
Okay, well, Gus, I mean, we need the sunshine. What can you play us out with? Oh, come on! Woo! And it's a party here at the start, Gabby. I'm not sure what it's like for you.
A little bit quieter, a little bit calmer over here.
Keep going, guys. It's your warm-up.
Yes, a little bit quieter and calmer over here at the moment, Jeanette. Good luck to all of them. And the 50,000 plus runners taking part today. The London Marathon is an event and a day like no other. It inspires you, it motivates you, it moves you. And for those involved, it is very much a life-affirming experience.
Feeling a little bit nervous.
I'm running so late.
It's really exciting.
Headed to the start.
You got this.
Here we go.
Yes.
Let's go, Chris.
Turning out to be the great race.
This is literally the hardest thing ever.
Honestly, don't know if I can make it. My thigh really hurts.
keep going, last bit. It's there. There's no finish line like it.
Safana San is the champion.
I told myself I could never run a marathon, and I've just done it.
Thank you. Oh my god, I did it.
Well, that really does encapsulate and evoke exactly what it is like to finish this iconic race, because no matter who you are, it moves you in so many ways. Everyone taking part, running for their own special reasons, with the ultimate aim to do your best and cross that finish line after 26.2 miles. Well, we've been here at the start line for the last hour and a half or so, building up to the race. We've seen the elite women go off, we've seen the wheelchairs go off, and just a reminder that all of the elite races will be seen on the iPlayer, the BBC Sport website and the BBC app if you want uninterrupted coverage. But throughout the day, we'll be bringing to you some incredible stories of the 50,000 people who are going to cross that finish line down there on the Mall, all running for their own reasons, their own charitable reasons, their own personal reasons. Those at the front hoping to perhaps break world records and run personal best, maybe even run themselves into an Olympic team. It really is a day full of stories, full of emotion. And at 10 o'clock, the masses behind us here will be lining up to go off behind those elite men, which is the last elite race to go. In the field, some incredible athletes, but they will, I'm sure, be thinking about last year's winner, Kelvin Kiptum, who of course died just a few months ago at the age of 24 in a car accident. And in a few moments there'll be a tribute paid to him. But I'm sure those runners today will take great inspiration from a man that some were saying could have been the greatest marathon runner of all time.
April in London is where the world comes to run. But the men's elite race is dominated by two countries, the East African giants of the road. In more than 20 years, only Kenya and Ethiopia have taken the men's title. And this year, Ethiopia brings the favourite in New York champion Tamarat Tola, while Kenenisa Bekele brings his star quality. And at 41, a reminder that in distance running, the career itself is a long road. But everybody in London is running for their own reasons. For the best of British and Emil Carres, that means confirming his Olympic place and chasing a time to show that he might even challenge for medals in Paris. As Callum Hawkins did twice in World Championships, fourth here in London and in the midnight heat of Doha. Cursed by injury since, he says today he'll fight a mind which has always pushed his body to its limits. London is a return, Paris a dream. And for others too, Mohammed is a new name to follow, while Mark Scott runs into the unknown on his marathon debut. But on a day when 50,000 make their way around the famous course, the absence of one figure is keenly felt. The fastest of all, the defending champion, and the death of Kenya's Kelvin Kiptum still hangs over the sport. His winning time last year was over a minute quicker than Eliud Kipchoge's course record. His world record in Chicago in October suggested that a sub-2 hour run was not beyond his talents. And yet, we'll never know. For so many races were still left to run in a life still to be lived, although a life of rare achievement. Kelvin Kiptum left a mark to chase and memories that will remain.
It's a new course record for Kiptum. What a performance from him. We've never seen anything like this on the streets of London.
Andrew Cotter with those beautiful words there. And Kelvin's victory last year will never be forgotten, and his family, friends, his country and the world of sport have lost a very special man and a very special and talented athlete. His coach, Gervais Hakizimana, also died in the accident. And now at the start, we're going to take a few moments to pay our respects.
Earlier this year, our 2023 TCS London Marathon champion, Kelvin Kiptum, and his coach, Gervais Hakizimana, died in a car accident in Kenya. At 24, Kelvin was world record holder and had the sport of marathon running at his feet. Let us now pay tribute with a period of applause. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Now we'll turn our attention to the start of this year's race, and we welcome the official starter.
A lovely moment and a fitting tribute for Kelvin Kiptum, a very special athlete whose greatness will live on in the memory. The start of the 2024 London Marathon is upon us. It is the ultimate human race, full of inspiration, spirit and endeavour. So let's join our commentary team of Baroness Tanni Gray-Thompson, Paula Radcliffe, Andrew Cotter, and first, Steve Cram.
Thank you, Gabby. Yes, and a very poignant moment to begin and to remember Kelvin Kiptum burned so brightly for way too short a period. 3 unbelievable marathons, including here in London. And I know it's true that the whole of the marathon world, and that includes the Ethiopians and the great champions from the past like Kenenisa Bekele, all were united in their grief and the mourning which the sport showed towards Kelvin Kiptum. But today we're back to celebrate, perhaps in his name, and for a lot of them here, of course, to chasing their own goals and ambitions here, including Callum Hawkins. Mentioned in that piece, Andrew said that it would be a dream to go to Paris. I think he knows that's probably not on the cards, but he's so pleased to be back here on the start line after so many injuries. And for Mark Scott, first time. Mark's been, over the last 2-3 years, moving around with coaching setups, who's spent a fair bit of time in Africa, knows what it takes. But what about this young man here, Emil Keres? If you don't know Emil, you will do, I think, by the end of today. It is a bit breezy, but he is going to try and chase Mo Farah's British record. We'll watch that one with real interest. He also wants to cement his team, his place in the British team for Paris. Lil Gebrselassie, third last year, third at the World Championships, just out of the top 3 here last year. Former world champion, bounced back to great form, winning New York in the autumn. Tamarat Tola will start as the favourite, but it's a warm favourite. I think it's a very open race because Kenenisa Bekele, almost 42, is running very well again. Third fastest ever, but in December in Valencia showed that he's still got a good race in his legs. Can he win London? He's never done it before. This is 6th attempt. So many other stories for us to follow, but we're just moments away from the start of the 2024 London Marathon. Kelly Holmes will do us the honours. A great champion, knows what it takes to win at the top level. Away they go, the elites get the honour of leading the world's greatest athletes in the world's greatest race, the London Marathon, which has given us so many stories over the years, is set fair, I'm sure, in 2024 to add to that, to add to the history, to the drama, to the tradition. 50,000 people will be following in the footsteps of the greats. Some will be hours behind them, but it doesn't matter, they're all united in the same quest to take on this quirky distance, and it is a quirky distance, 26.2 miles. All of them will have been preoccupied with the thoughts around starting and getting to the finish line the past weeks, months, perhaps maybe years leading towards these moments when they set off, hoping that today is their day. Today is the day I can fulfill all of the hard work. And there'll be pain, there'll be doubts, there'll be bad moments. Paula always talks about 3 or 4 times when you feel terrible, but you'll come through it. And eventually, I'm pretty sure for most of these people at the end, there'll be huge jubilation, joy, exhaustion as well. But we've enjoyed watching these pictures for so many years, and it never, ever fails to thrill. Always a great sight, Paula. And we know with, as I said, around 50,000 starting, we could well be heading for record numbers taking part this year.
Yeah, I think several records are aiming to be broken, not least of which the single greatest amount raised on one single day by one single event, which is already held by the London Marathon. But nothing beats that sight, does it? Makes you want to get out there and race. You're shaking your head.
No, I think this is something for everybody. You can't say that about many world sporting events, but this is. And we know that people from all over the world, all ages, all abilities, have the opportunity. Not everybody can get in. Around 500,000 people applied to take part in this year's event. But at the front, it's the same old story. Can you produce the goods on the day? Who's got the legs? Who's got the mindset? Who employs the best tactics? And while the women's race, we talked about records. We're not going to see any records today, but we will keep an eye on Emil Keres. That's one very much to look forward to. And before we develop it, Paula, I mean, you were one who would just say, I'm going to go over this. And Emil, over the last couple of days, has not necessarily with the media, but in and around the hotel with the other athletes, we are all watching because he and his team have said, I'm going for this.
Yeah, and they've set their stall out, and it's, I guess, unusual in terms of the fact that there is the Olympics in Paris coming up, and would he want to save some energy for that? But the marathon also, when you are in shape to run quickly, there aren't as many opportunities as there might be on the shorter distances, over the shorter distances. So I think that's why Emil knows he's in shape, knows he's on a great course for a British athlete. He will get a lot of support out there, and if he can pull out a performance like that, he could find himself very highly placed in the race itself as well.
Meanwhile, in the women's race, they are clicking along at a pace. The world record holder on the far side, Asefa, former world record holder, Koskai in the orange, just on this side. All of the big top names in there, including the Olympic champion Jepchirchir here at the back in the yellow, former winner Yohalo there as well. But this pace, Paula, 31.26. We said the first 5K, we kind of wait and see, but they haven't slowed down. And this is well under the 2:15. This is into the 2:14 range. Very, very quick.
There is only one woman in that pack there who has shown her ability to race at this pace, and that is Tigsta there in the yellow vest on the far side, running alongside Chepngetich. The others are outside of their comfort zone, of their territory, because it's predicted 2:12 somewhere at the moment. It will slow down, but as you noted at the start, and as you could see with the men's vests on the start line, it is getting windier and getting a lot breezier out there, and that will make it tougher for these women. Yes, they're in a pack and they can settle within there, but I'm expecting to see this pack start to break up if this pace continues, because I don't believe that all of those women are capable of sustaining this pace.
And a little further down the road, though, the race for perhaps the chance to get selected, oh, that's going to be difficult. Only one spot available. Alice Wright on the far side, Mary McClellan in her first marathon, and they're on the time schedule. 2:26.50 is the Olympic qualifying time. That's through 10K. They were still on schedule for that. We were told they were going to go a bit slower than that. Pace being set by Charlotte Purdy on the far side, Callie Thackeray closest to the camera. These two have already been selected. Rose Harvey raced in Nice earlier on today. She's sitting, I'm sure we'll be watching this nervously. She has the qualifying time, as does the likes of Lily Partridge, Clara Evans, who's also pacing further back. So these two in the blue running for perhaps the chance of being considered for selection.
So on to the men's wheelchair race, and still four. For a while it was two. It was Marcel Hugin, David Weir out in front, but then Romanchuk at the back end of things, and Suzuki, Tomoki Suzuki, you see at the front there, and he said, I'm tired, I've done enough work here, will someone else come through? It's very much like this. These four are, it's pushing, it's resting, it's it's jostling for, not position, but just to let someone else do a little bit of the work.
It's a hugely tactical race at the moment, so Suzuki keeps dropping off and then claws his way back, and then he seems to go to the front, so he's expending a huge amount of energy today, and I think it's not about the time. I mean, you look, they're all just coasting. This is a part of the course where you'd expect them to be picking up the pace, and this feels much more about who's going to be able to win today rather than going for time. Their mile times are just dropping every mile that we go through.
Yeah, the course record is 1:23.44. They're going to be some way outside that today. That's held by Marcel Hoog. Hoog in the silver helmet, the silver bullet. There he is in second place, and David Weir in third, Daniel Romanchuk in fourth. Those are the three that you would expect to be involved in a sprint. Look at this. There we are. It's just a cruise around Canary Wharf.
I'm smiling at the moment because they've probably dropped to about 14, 15k an hour there. And the particular finish time at the moment is 1:28. It's going to get slower than that. It's interesting. I mean, Dave Weir has been very smart. He's not doing anything at the front. He's just sitting on Marcel's wheel. You know, that's the person who's going to be the biggest threat to him.
What are the ethics of that? Letting someone else do all the work. I mean, it's just fair enough. It's all's fair in love and wheelchair racing, but in cycling, you get an elbow thrown out and said, right, you come through and do some work now.
Yeah, the women will be much more equitable in the way they take turns. With the men, it's not quite the same. But, you know, for Catherine de Bruyne, she doesn't have to worry about that today because she's just out in front and getting faster with each mile.
Yeah, out in front by a distance, and for a long time she's been out in front. So that's hard work on its own, but she's a class apart really in this race today.
Yeah, she is trying to pick off some of the men. So she's gone past Mike McCabe and she's picking up some others. It'll really help when she is about another 2 miles down the course because she will be able to see more men. And that's a big gap. I mean, it's interesting, Maddie de Rosario seemed to be struggling in the first couple of miles and has picked herself up again. And Eden Cooper's a little bit further down. She's pushing with Keiko Tishado from Japan. But you know, for Eden, she's obviously, her win in Boston was incredible, but she hasn't had that much back-to-back racing yet. And Catherine's just showing her class today.
Well, Catherine de Bruyne around the Isle of Dogs and heading towards Canary Wharf, but over 3 minutes in front of the rest. The men's race is a very different affair, and this may well come down to a sprint down the mile. And, well, I was about to say all four of these, but the three in front at the moment, Hoog and Weir and Romanchuk, are great sprinters, and you know, winning on the track over 800 meters. You know, if you're a good marathon racer in wheelchair racing, you have to be a good track sprinter over shorter distances as well, really.
Absolutely, and you know, Dave has really found his form on the track again this season. They were racing in Dubai earlier in the year, incredibly fast times on the track. And where Dave Weir's won, it's because he's taken a really smart line round the final turn. And you know, he's playing a brilliant tactical race. He's going to want to force Hug out to the front and do as much as possible, and then try and cover every break. So Marcel's actually picking up the pace now, and it'll be interesting to see how it pans out in the next few miles. Marcel is going to want to break.
Apologies, just a little bit of picture break-up as they head out into the wilds of the course, but actually heading into the final 20 minutes of that men's wheelchair race as well, and we will take you back to the start.
Well, we mentioned 50,000 people. Of course, they can't all start at once, and the various waves coming through. This is still the start where the elites went off and the championship start, and some of the charity runners go through here. But the main start in Greenwich Park also taking place, and then they all join together just around the 3 mile point. So the separate routes for the first sort of 2.5 to 3 miles, and then everybody comes together. An incredible logistic exercise every single year. It is getting pretty breezy and windy there. You might have just noticed in the top of the field there, the hot air balloons have been deflated, maybe getting a little bit tricky to keep them going, but otherwise pretty good conditions. Sun is out, nice temperature, but just as I said, perhaps a little bit breezy. Be interested to see whether that affects the elites, but we will find out.
We surely will. Thank you so much, Steve. We'll be back out with you shortly, but as the 50,000 or so make their way through the start here, I'm delighted to say we have some heavyweight support for them. Anthony Joshua is down here waving, cajoling, encouraging. It's great to see you here, AJ. Why do you think the London Marathon is so special?
People run it for personal gain as well, and also for charitable causes. Brings people together. A nice time of the year as well, weather's good. So yeah, all that combined brings out how many people? 50,000?
They're hoping over 50,000 complete it today.
Unbelievable, yeah, so it brings out a lot of good people.
Of course, we are 12 years now from your iconic day in London coming up this summer when you came to the public's attention with that fabulous gold medal. This is such an important city for you as well, isn't it? And I'm sure those memories of that day are still very much there at the forefront of your mind. Looking forward to Paris this summer and seeing the boxing talent of the future coming through?
Yes, grassroots boxing, all the amateur boxers going to compete for the country, the best that we have to offer. I've been through that system as well. I'm wishing them well. As you said, coming up 12 years ago was my time, and I'm still trying to chase my dreams as well. So I know what those guys are going to be going through, how they're feeling, and they got my support fully. They fully got my support.
Speaking of your dreams, we saw you looking very impressive against Francis Ngannou. You made light work of what many were worried was going to be a difficult challenge for you, a kind of unknown boxer. But what we do know is that Usyk and Fury at some point are going to get it together, and you're going to fight the winner of that match.
Boxing's changing a lot. There's a new player, His Excellency Turki Al-Sheikh, who's taking the boxing world by storm and kind of doing what he wants for the fans, and it's amazing. So if the fans demand it, I know that he'll deliver.
Do you not think the fans want that?
I know them. They want me and Fury. I want it. So yeah, I'm sure he'll be delivering.
This year?
I think that's what I'm not going to give away his plans, but he's a man that is of action, planning and action.
It's coming.
It's coming, most definitely.
Could that be your next fight, or will there be another one in between?
To be honest, he said be ready for September, and why he said that is because they've got a fight June 1st with all the heavyweights, 5 versus 5, Eddie Hearn versus Frank Warren. Then they've got Usyk versus Fury in May, and then they'll have me in September. It's unbelievable right now in the heavyweight boxing.
We were just discussing what you're doing physically at the moment when you come down from a fight like that and the preparation. There's always physical work to be done, maybe not as intense as normal. Would you perhaps throw in a little marathon?
Maybe a little 6 miler, jumping at 6 miles, but I don't think I could do a good 26 miles. Credit to these lot, because it takes some doing for sure.
You do a fair bit of running though, maybe one day out there?
I do a fair bit of running, yeah, but you know, what I do, 5-6 miles, is nothing compared to these lot. These lot are phenomenal. I take my hat off to these lot doing this.
But it's mental, isn't it? You know, once you go beyond a certain distance, of course, and you go beyond a certain distance, you've got the mentality. I mean, what do you think of what these people are doing today?
Well, I think what makes it different as well is you've got all these amazing people coming out to cheer them on, like family and friends and people from the local community. So it also takes your mind away from the pressure of running 26 miles. So before you know it, 5 miles have gone, another 5 miles have gone. You see your family, and it's amazing. The support here just kind of spur them on.
And you're going to be spurring them on throughout the day, cheering for them.
I brought my family as well today, actually, so I brought all my
Maybe
my
you'll inspire
nephews.
them.
Yeah, exactly. I told them in the car, explained to them what it's about, and I want to see them doing it one day.
I'm sure they will all be delighted to see you, Anthony. Thanks so much for coming along and having a chat with us today. I'm going to head from here right down to the start for the rest of the day. I'm going to hot-foot it, so I'm going to leave you right now in the capable hands of Andrew Cotter.
Oh, my goodness, what a billing. What a decisive move has been made in the men's wheelchair race, because there is Marcel Hoog, that familiar silver racing helmet of his, and it is, I say decisive, it's almost decisive. Daniel Romanchuk is giving chase, but as soon as that elastic band holding the 4 racers together snapped, it's very difficult for Romanchuk to get back there, but my goodness, he's putting in a hard push now to try and get up to Hoog.
And in the pack of 3, there was Marcel Hoog, then there was David Weir, then there was Daniel Romanchuk. And when Hoog made that decisive kick, Dave Weir couldn't quite close the gap. So, you know, Daniel sat behind him for a bit, probably a little bit too long before he had to come round and try and catch up again. And, you know, Hug's still looking behind him. He's not convinced of the gap that he's got yet, but even down to 2 would be a better position to be for him.
Yeah, those splits there at 30 kilometres, they were together, but then a move was made coming out to Blackwall and towards Limehouse by Marcel Hug. And you see that gap back to Romanchuk is growing now. So Hug looks to be heading for victory again, but Romanchuk is powerful. But again, I stress in recent races in marathon, certainly towards the end of last year, it was Hug and Romanchuk inevitably and invariably finishing first and second. For Catherine de Bruyne, well, it might be a Swiss double in men's and women's, so it's certainly going to be de Bruyne in the women's race. But it's been a very different type of race for Catherine de Bruyne. She's been on her own since she feels like just a couple of miles into the race, really. She put the pedal down.
She has, and she likes, you know, racing on her own. She doesn't particularly like having a huge pack around her, and this is where she's incredibly strong. Her cadence of hand speed is just consistent, and that means that, you know, on the flat, the hills, everything, she can just keep up her average speed. So it feels like it's a race for second at the moment. The worry is if she gets a puncture.
Well, that group of incredibly talented women still very much together. We've lost one of the pacemakers, but it is a very, very fast pace. Asefa, the world record holder, has never been far away from the front. We've seen some shenanigans at the water stations. Paris Jepchirchir, or the other athlete in the, do we call it yellow? What? Never mind. Anyway, lemon. No, not. Anyway, Paul, help me.
Lemon. Lemon's good.
Lemon or peach? Peach is being suggested to me. Anyway, Perez actually picked up 2 water bottles, or 2 feed bottles, was looking to see which one was hers, was then offering the other one around to the others, saying, I think I've got somebody else's bottle here. Anyway, all sorted. This is quick, Paula.
It is quick. I'm just looking through that. I think, have we lost Chepengatic? I don't see Ruth Chepengatic in that.
I can see her. She's on the far side. That's Sheila Chepkarui, I think, who's gone off the back.
Okay, so they are still very much together, and the pace slowed a tiny bit. I say slowed to a 5:14, 5:17 mile when they went into the wind and up slight hills, but certainly still moving along at a very, very quick tempo. But as we said before, only Asefa is really comfortable at that, if you can say comfortable when it's still only her 4th marathon.
Yeah, no, I think the wind is having a factor, because as you're headed into this area, kind of around Rotherhithe, you do turn a little bit north for a while, and that 5:14, 5:17, I think they were heading more into the wind, and it's more exposed in that area, so I suspect that's why it's slowed. They've just gone a 5:08, they're heading towards Tower Bridge now. You can see there, they're running in a more westerly direction now than they were a few minutes back, and this wind could become a factor. You can see the trees there blowing around. You perhaps saw at the start there some of the backs being blown around, and even for us at the finish, I can see the flags are blowing, and we've even seen some of the hoardings blown over, Paula, so it could be a factor.
It could, and I think it's certainly a factor, as we'll see in the men's race as well, in determining that decision of, do I push a little bit quicker than I feel comfortable with, but because I want to stay in touch with a group rather than become detached and have to run on my own. And that may be coming into play a little bit in that women's pack. Certainly there will be women who might have made that decision to go with it, so they get a little bit of shelter by running in the group rather than running their own pace and being on their own in that wind.
Well, we were expecting a kind of a more moderate pace there. Spot on 2 hours 3. Emil Keres is the athlete that I think we're all really interested in this second group. Really important that for Emil, the group that he has there, his pacemakers, do a really good job, because he's going to end up pretty much on his own, I would suggest, for this race, and not get drawn into what's happening up ahead. Now, his pacemakers, Jack's in the front there, 51. He said, Jack's tall, he'll just keep the wind off me. And then the other 2 are guys who he runs with in Kenya when he's there training. His coach is based in Iten, and Emil spends a reasonable amount of time there, so they know him well, and he's hoping that they can go maybe as far as 30k, which would be brilliant for him. But yes, something which we're going to keep an eye on. He's certainly set off at that 2:05, low 2:05 Mo Farah's record, 2 hours, 5 minutes and 11 seconds. That would be a huge target were he to get even close. There you can see the best times ever. Emil already in the top 4, Phil Sessamon. Those two have the qualifying time. The qualifying time, 2 hours, 8 and 10 seconds. You saw Callum a few years back close to that. Mohammed in this race as well today, certainly in the chase for perhaps a spot in the team as well, with Mark Scott there a little further back.
Yeah, and I think the good thing for Emil is that he's not alone in the race either within that group. He does have company from Tesfaye of Eritrea, who's going to help to push him on should those pacemakers not be able to continue beyond a certain point. But I think very focused at this stage, Emil, and probably as many of those mass runners starting out as well, happy to find that his legs feel like they're his own. They feel like they did do in training, and that's what so many of those runners out there today will be hoping to happen in that first couple of miles.
I'm intrigued with this men's race because, often we look at it. There are 2-3 in here who we have not really seen at this level. One of them is the young man there, Gobena in the blue, just tucked in behind Dawit Waldy. And Gobena's just 19, burst onto the scene earlier this year with an incredible debut, but has only been running for a couple of years. He was a former javelin thrower. He's 52 meters his best ever javelin, apparently, and it was his auntie, who's a top world level athlete herself, Rutiaga, and she said to him, no, you need to start running. And he started at 400, 800, quickly moved up, ran his first half marathon in the autumn, ran his first marathon just 2-3 months back, and it was a 2:05 marathon, Paula, and he won.
It was, and I was watching it and commentating on it, and it was a phenomenal run from him, an extremely strong run, and I think he kind of really blew it out of the water with his first attempt, and now can he build on that is the big question that everybody's asking, and he's certainly in the right company and on the right stage to be able to do that today.
So to the very front of all the racers today in the London Marathon, Marcel Hoog. You see just a little bit of a downhill section, take a breather, adopt that tuck position, get aerodynamic, and he's a long way clear of Daniel Romanchuk now in second place. We did think for much of this race that it was going to come down to a sprint somewhere near the end, someone pushing in the effort. Marcel Hoog and Romanchuk and David Weir and Suzuki of Japan were all together, but Hoog put in such a huge effort coming away from Canary Wharf, and that just shows the class of the athlete, why he is the dominant figure in marathon racing.
And he also knows that, in the final 200 metres, if Dave Weir's sitting on his shoulder, anything can happen. And he spent quite a while looking back, making sure that the break was decisive. But now he's, head down. He's now pretty much at his top speed. They had quite a few miles where it was getting a little bit steady and probably a little bit uncomfortable for his liking. But now there's a big gap back to Romanchuk.
Well, he's won the London Marathon 4 times. He's won it the last 3 years. In each of the last 3 years, he's set a course record. He's not going to be setting a course record today. Actually quite slow for Marcel Hoog. There's the gap now, 45 seconds back to David Weir. I thought Romanchuk was in second place, but that's the gap back to David Weir. May have overtaken Romanchuk. We haven't seen footage of that. I think it's going to be the podium is going to be filled by Hoog, Weir and Romanchuk. Hoog's certainly out in front, and Weir and Romanchuk in second and third. And in the women's race, it is again Swiss dominance, but from an earlier time in the race. Catherine de Bruyne, long way clear. We've been watching her on our independent monitors, and she seems to have been laboured. It's been really hard work out there, but again, she's been on her own for so long.
And it's interesting that she chose not to race in Boston last week. She has done back-to-back before, but I think London is really important for her and setting her up for the season. And, Paralympics only a couple of months away. She's got to be thinking about that as much as that she wants to be winning. Winning today and winning Boston, she also really wants to do well in Paris. She'll probably be competing over 4 or 5 distance as well, which means she'll be racing pretty much every day in Paris.
So there we are, Catherine de Bruyne heading for victory again. She's the course record holder for women wheelchair racers as well, but she's going to be outside that. But heading for the win, as is Marcel Hoog in the men's race, and we will head back to the women's elite race.
Well, they've just picked up again. We suggested those couple of slower miles might have been more exposed, a little bit more protection here. They're not far away from Tower Bridge. And if you've ever done the London Marathon before, and people say there are no hills in it, there's kind of one. Tower Bridge is a little bit of an incline. Crowds start to build as you approach the 12-mile point, but this is quick. All of the big names were expecting to be there. Perhaps Sheila Chepkarui, who's dropped off, we thought might have been able to hang with this, but because she's been in actually pretty good form. But the big names, really, the Koskai is there, Chepngetich is there, Chepchirchir is there. There you see Tigist Nsefa's time from Berlin, which was in a mixed race. Men could pace, running with men all the time. Women's only, set by Mary Katani here in 2017. They are way inside. They're kind of midway between those two times and the 2:14 range, which is very quick. And look at Asefa. The pacers are starting to struggle with this. Actually, to be fair, that's a water station. And Perez, let's see if Perez gets the right drink. Yeah, well done, Perez. Just looking to check her name again.
She did still check, and look at Asefa there. She found herself at the front and didn't intend to, and you could see a clear look around, and where have you gone, pacemaker? You're supposed to be in front of me, but I think they're really starting to struggle. And pace one, who's Nelly Jepchumba, is really struggling now to stay at the front of this group, and has sensibly perhaps taken that decision to drop back and to run with Koskai and Chepngetich behind.
I think both Chepngetich and certainly Chepngetich has always looked as though she's been almost ready to drop off, but has been fighting to hang on. That might be another water station where you just cannot get back. Often the gaps appear at the water station, feed station, but then you get back on. She's struggling to get back on here, partly because it's slightly uphill. You can't really tell there. Working hard here, that gives you a better idea, doesn't it, Paula? Cresting the apex of the bridge, and the pacers are back in front now.
It is more exposed over the bridge as well. You can see the wind is whipping down the Thames and making it a little bit tougher for them and for the spectators. Stood out there all day doing a great job, cheering everyone on as well. But I do think there are some serious mind games being played in this lead group, and these women have taken the decision to commit to a pace that is ordinarily a lot faster than they would want to be running at this stage, in order not to allow Tigist Nsefa to have it all her own way and to ask some questions of her mind.
Well, that time there, 63.35 through 20k, that's low 2:14 pace, so it is fast. But I think this is what we expected. We expected a fast first half while the pacemakers were there. The question is, what happens when the pacemakers drop out? Who is going to be brave enough with all of this quality around to keep forging on? The wind perhaps in your face, or certainly I think they may turn into the Canary Wharf area, might be a bit more protected, but I think that we're heading into a really interesting part of the race here. Well on schedule for the women's only record, and I think that's definitely within their sights. But who fancies taking the lead once the pacemakers drop out? A little further back at Cuddy Sark, the big crowds there welcoming them. There they are. And the men running a steady pace there. In fact, the time there, the clock going in between us and the field. Again, most of the men had to kind of make a decision. Do you want to go with this pace, or do you want to sit back into the Emil Keres group? So I think what's going to happen in this race, Paula, you probably would agree that some of these men are going to be overstretched today in this group, and will give Emil Keres and his chasing group, his pacemakers with him, something to aim at. 10k 29.03.
Yeah, 29.03 for that front group and 29.43 for the Emil Keres group. So you're absolutely right. The casualties, if you like, of this lead group, who as they start to drop off and drift, back down the road will absolutely give those chasing men something to aim for, and a little bit of a lift as well as they tick off each one, and it always helps a little bit to be going faster than someone, to be going past someone, whether you're back in the masses or whether you're in this elite group.
Wonderful crowds at Cutty Sark, always a popular place to watch. People can watch here, and then I was going to say, I don't know what they get, but anyway, they pop back over to the other side of the river, back into Canary Wharf, and see them much later. Phil Sessamon in that group there. That's this is the chase group in with Emil Keres, who set his stall out, and it's a brave thing. A lot of people were perhaps thinking maybe a little bit slower in your second marathon, but he said, no, I'm going to go for it here. I'm going to try and head for that Mo Farah British record. Take the risk. There's always a risk if you go too quick in the marathon. So far, so good.
Through the dappled light of Birdcage Walk, Marcel Hoog is heading to victory by a distance, by a huge distance over the second place, who we're just trying to work out if it is David Weir, if it's Daniel Romanchuk. We will find out, but there's no doubt about the winner, who is heading for his 5th victory in the London Marathon and his 4th in a row, because there we are, just 600 metres to go for the great Swiss athlete Marcel Hoog. And we saw on a close-up not that long ago while we were watching the elite men runners, just seeing the effort on his face, because he makes it look very, very easy, but the effort, Tanny, that he will have put in to create this gap is enormous.
And he's had a very patient race. You know, he let others sort of play out what they wanted to do early on. You know, when he made a decisive move, nobody could stay near him, and you know, his heart rate in wheelchair racing is pretty high. It's probably about 195 at the minute. Again, like cycling, you keep it really high, and it's such a well-deserved win for him. He's been taking the corners a little bit carefully after his crash in Boston last year, but now he knows the race is in it. It's not about the time, it is about the win.
One final turn to make, and right beside our commentary box at the start of the mile, and as spectators, you want a dramatic sprint finish down the mile, but as a racer or a runner, this would be the dream. Buckingham Palace in the background, the mile in the sunshine, and Marcel Hoog heading for his 5th victory in the London Marathon, untouched and untroubled by the rest. Just a little look around, there's nobody there. Marcel Hoog alone and clear, and the champion of London again. He is the best in the business in wheelchair marathon racing. And just the head bowed gives an indicator as the effort, but this great Swiss athlete has done it again. And I think we see there is Daniel Romanchuk, who has been second, runner-up to Marcel Hoog so often in recent marathons, and he will be again here in London. Winner in 2019, Romanchuk, but here second. And I think it will be a podium finish for David Weir. Romanchuk takes second place. And then we'll wait to see if it is David Weir coming round in his 25th consecutive London Marathon. But this is pretty much the order we expected.
It was, and here's Dave Weir coming round the final 2 turns. He's going to get such a huge reaction from the crowd, and it's not the result that he wanted today, but you know, 3rd in this field, it's you know, a good, strong performance, and he's now definitely going to be looking forward to Paris.
Yes, his passion, enthusiasm for the sport seems to have been revitalised, because certainly in recent times he has lost his way a little bit, but a podium here, yeah, he's looking towards Paris from London.
Yeah, and you know, there's lots of learning for him today, just in terms of, you know, at what point he did a lot of the right things sitting on Marcel Hoog's wheel, but when that kick came, that's probably what he's going to be sort of looking to build on the next couple of months. And you know, nice little celebration for him. Yeah.
Well, just look at his quickest ever time was just about what he's done there, actually. And again, he's got a very, very top of the range chair now, built by a Formula One team, as Marcel Hoog does. So there we are, a chat between 1st, 2nd and 3rd. Marcel Hoog on the left, David Weir taking 3rd, Daniel Romanchuk, the American, in 2nd place, and Tomoki Suzuki coming through to take 4th place. And the effort he's put in, that's hard to take 4th just off the podium.
He's worked really hard today. You know, he kept, you know, trying to get back to the pack, but he should be pleased with that.
And Marcel Hoog, champion of the men's wheelchair race.
Well, we've got so many stories to follow. Trying to spot there. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Remember, there they are, right in the middle there. Imagine doing a TV program while you're doing the marathon. Yeah, I'm in character. I'm going well. Yeah, well done to the pair of them. Don't forget, you'll see the story in EastEnders. Is it on Monday, I think? Really looking forward to that. Emma's in full chat there. Just looks nice and relaxed. All good. Very early stages, but well done to the pair then.
The director says we'd like another take of that.
Yes, can you go back and do that bit again?
Here in the gate.
Can you just look a bit more exhausted? Oh, well done to them and to everybody. Don't forget, Paula mentioned, I mean, there's been over £1 billion has been raised for charity at the London Marathon, well over 1 billion. Look at all of these folks waiting their turn. Not long now for all of them to be given their chance. So I keep mentioning about the logistics around getting everybody to the start line at the right time and then getting them away and across. And of course, just again, if you're not sure about this, everybody's wearing their own computer chip, which means that when they cross those mats there, their own time is recorded, even though some of them will be starting, best part of an hour behind the elite runners who set off at 10 o'clock. Speaking of which, well, Paula, the pre-race favourite, Tamara Tola up there, but Kenenisa Bekele tucked further back, just keeping nice and quiet. Really interesting to see. Wouldn't it be great? You know, he's in his 40s. He's never won London. There he is, just over on the far side. Got a glimpse of him. Never won London. Dropped out last year was the only time he didn't finish, but that would be a brilliant story, wouldn't it?
It would be an amazing story, and I think that he is going from strength to strength and is way more relaxed, as we said, than we've ever seen him at big events like this. And it's almost like not the pressure's off his shoulders, but he has that experience, and I don't think he knows there's no need to enforce his presence on this race at this point. He doesn't need to get up there and tell them he's still there. They know Kenenisa Bekele is with them, and he will be one that when they look around, they glance around, and the likes of Tola looks back over his shoulder, he will be checking to see first, where is Bekele, and if he starts to struggle, don't be surprised if the foot gets put down by these guys at the front.
It was interesting listening to him at the press conference. He was asked about going to the Olympics, would you like to go? And of course, he sort of said, I've been before, you know. He's got a few Olympic gold medals in the bag already, and but he then said, I would love to be in the team. He goes, you know, that's going to be up to the selectors. I mean, fancy saying that, somebody with his pedigree, but of course in the marathon he's never quite been able to show, even though he's the third fastest ever. He would really, really love to make that the Ethiopian team, but that's tough.
I'm sure he would love to do that. I'm sure he would love to win here today as well. That would be a big marker for him. He was the first person ever, wasn't he, to win Olympic, world title and world cross country. So to be able to add the road to that as well would cement his position as one of the greatest, if not the greatest of all time, which we can discuss forever and ever who that might be.
Going along nicely, Emil Keres. Now he's just, after 10k, it slipped off the record time, but I think that's not a bad thing. I think the danger for me was that the pacemakers got a bit too carried away, because it's going to be right on the edge for him. I have to say that the group with Mark Scott, Surafel's in there as well, Mohammed, who are also looking for Olympic selection. They are aiming for the time of 2 hours 8:10. They're running 2:06 and a bit pace through 10k, so that probably is a bit of a push for them, but Emil looks good.
And it has been a theme this morning, hasn't it, that first half is being covered quickly, and traditionally it used to be that the second half of London was the quicker half, that you could pick it up faster. Certainly that's an easier way to run any marathon, is to pick it up in the second half. So I think for Emil to just check back a little bit, that's a wise move at this point.
You see the breeze out there today. How much of an advantage is it? So there's a group of, I had to do a quick count, 5 there, maybe a group of 10 or 9 or 10 in the front group. How much easier is it to have just that bit more people around you?
There's a definite advantage to having people around you. there's a little bit of a trade-off when you come to a group of 10, 15 versus 5, because there are more feet to watch as well. So you don't want to be buried too much in the middle of the pack, particularly coming up to a feed station where people might start diving across in front of you. So I think he's in a good position, Emil.
Well, very good position for Catherine de Bruyne. There we are, the Palace of Westminster in the background, and heading into Birdcage Walk. And, well, I was about to say, she knows that this victory is hers. She has known for a long time this victory was going to be hers. So Catherine de Bruyne, she won it a couple of years ago in a course record 1:38.24. There's not going to be too far away from that. It's hard work when you're on your own, and she has had a couple of the lower men's racers to help a little bit, but really for almost all this race she's been a solitary figure.
And it is a really lonely place when you're out on your own, but that is the type of racing she prefers, and she's able to keep her mile times, you know, really high and really strong. Definitely helped being able to you know, to chase some of the men, but that's a big gap on Manuela Schär and the other athletes, and it looks like, you know, the women split up relatively early, and it's not easy when, you know, you're just on your own like that. But her hand speed, her cadence, you know, is just incredible, and it's going to be hard looking ahead to see. You know, if you're looking at the Paris Marathon course for the Paralympics, it's hard to see right now who could beat her in terms of the way that she's pushing. She's strong off the start. She can sprint. She can climb. You know, she's got everything in her ability.
I'll be wrecking the Paris course as well, because a lot depends on the type of course. Again, we talk about how hilly Boston is in relation to a Berlin or a London or Chicago, so I'm sure they'll be having a keen look at that, because Paris is of course a huge goal this year.
You look at the difference in times in Boston, which is not a legal course, but Marcel did 1:15 on it last week, and you know, the women 1:34, Eden did 1:34, so it's not such a big difference for the women on the course. But you know, Paris is going to be a tricky course, and they're going to be spending quite a lot of time going there and training on it, checking it out, because certainly for the Paralympics, it's going to be a really strong field of women there.
There we are, the final turn by the big house, and she is going to be outside her course record, just outside her course record of 1:38.24, where this has been hard graft for much of the 26 miles and a bit more for Catherine de Bruyne. We'll talk about this Swiss dominance in wheelchair marathon racing with Marcel Hug on the men's side, and first Manuela Schär and now Catherine de Bruyne, who took a lot of time out of the sport to establish herself as a teacher and continue her education and qualification towards that. She is a teacher, but now back in marathon racing, and really not quite the dominant figure, but certainly the woman to beat, and has been absolutely unbeatable today in London. A huge winning margin for Catherine de Bruyne, her second victory in London, and there's the smile now after the face of all that effort over so many years, but a great performance.
An amazing performance, and I think she will be absolutely delighted with her time today. Not the best conditions for the wheelchair racers, but to do that on her own from a couple of miles in is deeply impressive.
So there we are, Catherine de Bruyne, a show from her today in taking victory, and taking victory by some 5 minutes or so from the second place finisher, who we'll see who it is. I think it might be Manuela Schär. We'll get confirmation of that in a while, but there is the smile that everybody feels coming across that line, whether they have won or not. It is a special place to be in marathon racing. Catherine de Bruyne, champion of London once again. She came in as the favourite, the 29-year-old, and she's taken it again. She'll be looking forward to Paris and various distances she could try there, but Asefa just asking for a little bit of extra help out in front. This group is whittling down a little bit.
Well, really interestingly in the women's race, we said what's going to happen when the pace drops out. Well, they just have. We've already lost Bridget Kosgei, the former world record holder. You can see her in the distance there, about 50 meters behind the lead group. The pace, I think, is just slowing a little bit. They went 5:10, 5:11, but now all of a sudden everyone looking round, looking at each other. Ketima, the young Ethiopian on the left there, who ran so well in Dubai recently. Last year, I haven't talked about her, and the green on the far side. I'm really bad at my colours. We've decided it's peach, and then the greeny strip of Alemu who finished second last year. Everyone talked about Sifan winning, and then there was all these great athletes in that group, but she was the one, Magertu Alemu, who took second, just beat Perez Jepchirchir, and she's in there. Yahalu, the former winner, and then we've got Jocelyn Jet-Koskais. We've got two former winners in this group, world record holder, Olympic champion, second last year, full of talent.
Also got Ketema in there, who is a training partner of Asefa. Did step up and win. We talked about the fact that Gobena was so impressive in Dubai. She also ran really, really well there and has more to give yet, I think, over the marathon distance. So a little bit of tactics there now. They've taken their 25k drinks, bottles. They did go through 25k in 1:19:38, so still running exceptionally quickly, and now just a little bit of spreading out across the road, thinking, okay, if there's no pacemaker, I'm not going to give shelter to somebody else. So that's why they're spreading out across the road. And there's another little bit of a tactic from Asefa there. I hand my water bottle back because I don't need it, so I'm going to make sure my training partner gets her shot.
Yeah, this is not unexpected that once the pacemaker drops out, they were on 2:14, just over 2:14 pace, very, very fast. But then why would you want to kind of do the work for others at this stage of the race? This isn't about trying to win it here. This is about holding, settling, kind of gathering yourself. Even though they've moved away from Koskai, then it'd be really interesting to see. We've just had a 5:15 mile, Paula, which is one of the slowest ones we've had, certainly when they're not running into the wind. So it's just the demeanor. You know, you can see Asefa, I think her brain is going, what do I do here? You know, she's not really been in this position, not with these people around her. So this is unusual for her, or it's new for her.
It is, and you can see it's very interesting to look at the facial expressions. I mean, they can be deceptive as well. So someone like Yohalo has had that concentration, that frown almost on her face from the beginning. Ketema absolutely focused on the heels of her training partner, Asefa, who, you're right, was just looking like, okay, this is easy for me. Why is nobody pushing on? Why am I the one at the front? And I think Perez I think she's feeling good in there. She's taken the opportunity a couple of times in this race. She did it early on at one of the drink stations, just to push on a little bit. Okay, if I put a little surge in, even though it's really fast, that's going to start some nagging doubts perhaps in the mind of Asefa, who might think she's going to have it all her own way.
Meanwhile, in the men's race, it's pretty much as you were. Good pace, steady pace, 2-3 pace, which was what was asked for, what we expected, although we could well be down to just a single pacemaker pretty soon. There's a water station coming up, so it'll get a little bit sort of jostly and mixed up here, but 43:41 was their time, which still is just under that 2 hours 3 mark, and everybody that we expected to be there is still there, although we've lost one of that sort of big group. Pretty sure that this group will continue to kind of the gaps will drift, and then will they be swept up by Emil Carres? Now sadly for Emil, he's lost one of his pacemakers. Jack's only going to go to looking at his watch there, he's going to go to halfway, and he was hoping to still have 2 pacemakers beyond that, but he's only going to have 1. He's just slipped off the record, the British record pace a little bit, but still within the range, round about 2:5:30 thereabouts. Long way to go. This is, for me, a tricky part of the course, but meanwhile back here at the finish.
And second in the women's wheelchair race will go to another Swiss athlete, and the one who was Queen Manuela Scher, used to dominate this event. Broke her leg in 2022. It hasn't quite been the same figure since, but second place in the London Marathon. Catherine de Bruyne, I'm sure, will not be too far away to wait and congratulate her fellow countrywoman. So Manuela Scher taking second place, and I think it's going to be Tatiana McFadden, not too far behind in third.
Yeah, I mean, Charlotte's been an incredible athlete for a long time, and, you know, she has struggled to come back, but that's De Rosario in 4th place at the moment, and this is looking a real struggle for the athletes coming up to the finish line now at the moment. This is a tough sprint.
Yeah, the conditions look very pleasant. You can see the flags have been blowing all day. There's a decent northeasterly breeze, cool breeze out there as well. It is McFadden coming through. Madison de Rosario was their champion from last year in 4th place.
This is always the struggle that we have with the chairs in terms of trying to read the names or the numbers. I think that was actually Milamania.
Yeah.
But oh no, sorry, no.
Just looking for
No, it's
confirmation.
McFadden. I was going to say.
I thought she had.
Do you know, she's looking quite different. Both, I mean, partly because of the chair.
That's thrown us a little bit there,
but also she doesn't normally race in glasses.
Well, there we are. She has today, just to confuse us. Anyway, 3rd place to Tatiana McFadden. Won this 4 times in a row from 2013 through to 16. The American, she takes 3rd place. This year just ahead of Madison de Rosario, the Australian who won last year, finishing in 4th this year. But McFadden, you can see she's struggling with the effort at the end of all that, as it should be at the end of a marathon. But I think all the racers, because there wasn't really a pack racing together in the women's wheelchair race, so almost everybody was having to do it, a lot of graft on their own. Oh, I've had an update, by the way, that it's more apricot than peach. Steve.
Each to their own fruits. Yeah, you're probably right. What we do know, though, is Asefa has now gone back to the front, and I think there was a bit of definitely a bit of slowing, and she's definitely will be thinking, I don't really want that to happen, because that definitely will play to particularly Peres Jepchirchir, who has this incredible record of being in the top 3 in marathons. In all of her marathons, she's a very smart racer, is Peres, Olympic champion. Now, this is interesting. Further back down the road, we've got a split in the British contingent, and it's the debutante, McClellan, who's just now got, 20-30 metres on Alice Wright. Charlotte Purdue with the pacemaking duties there. Slipped down of the Olympic qualifying time, but not by a lot. But they were originally supposed to be going 2:28. But it's a good debut nonetheless. Running strongly. Alice Wright still going well with Callie Thackeray to help.
Yeah, both of them running well, and a sensible decision by Charlotte and Callie to split up at this point and make sure that each stays with one of the athletes, and Mary running right alongside Charlotte and probably getting a little bit of encouragement, a little bit of helpful advice. I think Charlotte would like to see Mary have a great run out here today, and they probably will have had that feedback as well about how well Rose Harvey has run in Nice coming into this race, and that will be another factor in their mind. There are a lot of women capable, and it's going to be a tough selection meeting.
Well, after 25k, she is only 10-15 seconds in terms of predicted time outside of that Olympic qualifying of 2:26.50. And if you keep on that pace and then you get really strong in the last 5k, you just don't know. And then for a debutante, the fear starts to disappear. Every kilometre that you stay on pace, you lose the fear of, will I be okay?
You do, and she has less of that fear as well of, am I going to be stranded completely on my own? Because I'm fairly sure Charlotte is hoping to have a good training run out there today, and will go to around 35k, which would be a real help for Mary.
So Mary McLennan looking strong with Charlotte Purdue helping her. Charlotte's going to keep going as long as she can, I think. And another little look at the watch. They can see every kilometre there, and she'll be trying to keep as close as she can to that Olympic qualifying standard.
Just back to the women's wheelchair race, and Eden Rainbow Cooper is coming home in the women's race. Winner in Boston last weekend. Very, very famous Boston Marathon. She's had that snood on, talking about the coolness of the conditions today. She's had that on since the start, and it was such a wonderful effort to win in Boston. But again, that very different type of course, which features a lot of downhill sections, and its overall topography is slightly downhill, and she has great technique on the downhill sections. But I think this is just another staging post, this London Marathon, of what we hope will be a long and successful career.
It's absolutely such a massive win for her, but she's not used to racing back-to-back. When you think it was only the Commonwealth Games that she really broke through, she's come a long way in a short time, and the next sort of 2 years for her will be doing the marathons back-to-back to be able to do it, and you know, she works incredibly hard with Boston. She wasn't scared going downhill at, you know, sometimes 70k an hour, and she'll. And actually, this shows how tired she is. Getting up out of a chair, you know, the position in your back it's really difficult. And because Eden has some feeling and she can move her legs, it's actually a really, really challenging position for her to be in. So she might be a bit disappointed, but this is just another stage on her journey.
Well, you say she's saying she needs to get out of there. Catherine de Bruyne was the winner, was asking if she's okay, and she said no, Eden Rainbow Cooper. But again, Tani can talk about the actual physical difficulties and has done it for Eden Rainbow Cooper. So uncomfortable Eden Rainbow Cooper finishing about 7th place or so, but again, many more marathons for her to come.
Now, developments in the women's race. We've had a little bit of feeling out, surging, if you like, and what we've lost is 2 athletes who would have expected or wanted to be up there. Yahalo, you can see in the white and the red shorts, the former winner from 2022, great talent, and then the youngster Ketema, who's behind her as well, is just finding this a little bit too quick. It's speeded up because you can see those 2 slower miles. I think Asefa thought, let's get this moving again. Chepchirchev jumped straight in, followed her. Jocelyn Jepkoska is in there as well, the former winner. And then the gaps between the 2 British athletes starts to extend as Mari McLennan is looking very strong, looking good. This is a slightly quieter part of the route, as you can see through here, before you start thinking about the last few miles. They'll get back onto the crowds on the highway, which will signify they're heading towards the tower, and then you drop back down and you can start to think about the finish then, but still some tough running before then.
There is. It's all about focus at this point. It's all about trying to maintain your rhythm, to not project too far ahead. It's that difficult bit. Once you go past 2 hours, then it's like, okay, I've got this. I can definitely carry this through to the finish. And this is the kind of questions and the danger part of the race for every runner out there today.
All right, I'm just trying to see, we expected this in the men's, that we'd lose people more quickly than we did from the women's pack, and you can see Chardy is struggling to hang on there, just on that incline up over the bridge. They're still going pretty well though. We'll be getting the 20k split in just a second. Pacemaker checking, he's right on there. There's Tola, the Keeley is in there. The youngster we mentioned, Gobena, Gobena's dropped off the pace further back. And David Waldy I can see in the group still. Mateka in the hat, wearing the hat. We haven't really talked about him. Daniel Mateka, a man who paced Kiptum here last year, tried to chase him in Chicago or run with him to complete the marathon, fell apart, as you might do when someone's running a world record, but he's never finished a marathon in that case. But a lot of people think he has such huge potential if he paces it right, and of course the pace here slower, so therefore looking comfortable. So Emil Keres, the 20k point I think is going to be important, Paul, because he'll have a decision to make. We expect Jack to not go much beyond halfway, and I think he'll be thinking, do I just be sensible or do I keep chasing this record? Because at halfway you almost have to assess how quick am I running now and how do I feel?
Yeah, there's lots of factors that will come into that decision. You need to know the course and know what the second part of the course is going to be like. Obviously the conditions on the day play a role as well, but without a doubt people around you as well, making sure that you are comfortable in that rhythm and comfortable tuning into your own body. As we talk about, so many of these things for the elites will ring true for so many of the runners further back down the field as well, but you do have to know what your body is capable of on this day. It's not about how fast you've done in training, it's what it feels like it can do today.
Well, he is slipping off that record pace, I can tell you. He's gone through 20k in 59.35, which is sliding a little bit more towards 2.6 sort of pace. And he'd be, if he can run strong in the second half and he can run under 2.6, it would be a phenomenal performance. But that record of Mo Farah's is at the low end of the 2.5s. I mean, this might sound we're being pedantic, but to marathon runners at this level, the difference. You say, oh, what have you run for the marathon? 2:5. Well, 2:5:10 is very different to 2:5:55, and you know it's hard to sometimes explain that to people, because if we ask most of the people taking part today, they'll be, you know, 3:10, 4:31, you know, whatever. But yes, for these guys, every second counts. This is what I love to see. Oh, well done, mate. Let's hope he isn't called off into action anywhere on the route today. We have, as you've probably seen at the beginning of the show, lots of world records being attempted in various guises, fancy dress and other.
So I met a guy at the expo on Friday who's running around with an ironing board with the iron strapped to the back, and that is heavy. So if any of those runners out there see him, give him a hand, because that is really heavy to carry around.
Well, if he's got a minute, I've got some clothes. I've been here a few days, could do with an iron. Anyway, if anybody out there you want to give a shout out to, you can get in touch with us. Hashtag BBC Marathon. You can text us on 81111, and then you can call there. You see the number and there's a QR code there. Lots of ways for you to get in touch with us and let us know who's out there. And we'll be giving plenty of mentions to people as the programme goes on. I'm just going to give one quick mention to Hayley Kenny, who's from Leeds, running from the Royal Osteoporosis Society, and good luck to all of those from up north, because the Leeds contingent are very much cheering on Emil Keres. That's where he does a lot of his training. And our elite marathon runners, it seems to be that Yorkshire's a great place to come from in the minute, include Mark Scott as well, sort of North Yorkshire area. A preponderance of bananas. We've done apricots and peaches this morning. We're still having an argument about that. But for me, bananas are definitely yellow.
Bananas are way better to eat on the run as well. You have difficulty eating an apricot or a peach out there, wouldn't you?
This is the Cutty Sark area, and the one thing I was chatting to some people, you and I were with some of the charity runners last night, and saying, just keep as straight a line as you can. You know, it's 42.2 kilometers, 26.2 miles. You don't need to add an extra kilometer on because you're weaving around and trying to get through people. Just try and stick to where you are. It's quite difficult when you're in the big crowds like this. You feel as though you want to weave in and out of runners.
Just it is windy out there. I've just been outside having a little wander around, and it's cool, it's windy, which actually for these people going at this pace, it's quite nice that they're not going to be overheating. But for the elite runners, that there will be a little bit of buffeting.
Yeah, I think it will certainly be a factor in the elite races. I think less so here. You're absolutely right. There's a little bit of a cooling element, and there is a lot of shelter out there as well. And this is where perhaps you want a costume with a sail. I wonder how quickly you could go along with the wind behind.
Yeah, you're going to have to go into that wind at some time, though, tacking gently into the wind. Cutty Sark, great old clipper. Talked about what it means, Cutty Sark. Short skirt, short dress, from Tamashanta, the poem. Well done, Cutty Sark. Anyway, there we are.
No, thank you. Andrew is a font of all knowledge, and talking about font of knowledge and experience of taking part, we're going to go to Harry Judd, who's Harry, how's it looking down there?
It's looking good, Steve. The atmosphere, as always, is amazing. The crowds are out in their thousands, and loads of amazing runners with charities donned on all their t-shirts. You can see. Hello, hello! Little do they know they're live on the BBC, but it's all good. How are you guys doing?
We're great, mate. We're not running. We're good. We're sitting down. It's very nice in here. It's perfect, to be honest. But yes, you can help us out here with our elite coverage. How windy is it?
So if I just turn the phone round, there's a flag. It's pretty windy, but you know, at the moment we're sheltered by the buildings. It's not too bad. I'd say this is pretty good conditions for those elite athletes fan, which I am not one of, but it's nice and cool and windy.
Harry, I'm getting nervous because while you've been on the phone, your adrenaline is going. You've passed about 134 people while you've been on the phone. Be careful with the pace, mate.
Do you know, Steve, every time I run the marathon, I love telling everyone to not go out too fast. But once again, that's exactly what I've done. It's almost impossible. It's impossible not to. The atmosphere out here is amazing. The adrenaline's pumping. The crowds are cheering. And also it's the emotion of it. You know, 12 weeks, some people 16 weeks of training for this one moment. And you're all in it together. A group of strangers. There's really nothing quite like it.
Well done, mate. We're going to check in with you a little bit later on, but slow down, slow down. Great job.
Yeah, slow down, I will.
Harry Judd there. Now, Harry is doing a fantastic job, and don't forget, he's done a playlist for us, hasn't he, around if you're going to continue your running, your marathon running in particular, and you need something in your ears. I'm going to do a plug for Couch to 5K again as well. Don't forget how successful that has been. And if you are trying to choose a coach on the Couch to 5K program, me, don't forget. I mean, I've got lots of people here today who started. And again, just to remind you, if you want to give a shout out to anybody you know is taking part today, then there you go. Hashtag BBC Marathon, and give us a text and we'll try to do our best to mention them.
Or the QR code this year, eh?
Have you found out yet what QR means?
Quite something. I don't know. No idea. Quick. We don't know. Quick something. Anyway. I was loving the way Harry Judd was picking off people there, but he was also talking at the same time quite comfortably, so that's a good sign.
Let's hope so. Now, looking behind, Peres Jepchirchir has just slowed a little bit again, and it's surging. And they got rid of 3 or 4, which is always good to do. And then all of a sudden you look around, you see the Olympic champion is here, the world record holder is here. The former winner, Jep Koskei, is there, second from last year, Alemu. This is a high-quality quartet who are all literally looking at each other. Look at Asefa saying, OK, what's happening, folks? We've slowed a little bit here. Surely we want to push this on. And there she goes. That is she was waiting, and you couldn't you see it, Paula? Just a little surge there all of a sudden.
That was a look. Are you going to go? Or no, okay, nobody's going to go, so I'm going to go instead. But just before that, just before we actually joined the women, it was roles reversed for Jepchirchir and Asefa, because it was Asefa who was sat at the back and Jepchirchir who just pushed it on. And so this is a little bit, again, those mind games that we talked about. Who feels good at this point enough to be able to throw a surge in? Whose legs are really starting to tell from that early pace that they're getting heavier and heavier, and it's hard to keep going. And actually the smart way to run is to avoid the car stopping in the way for a start. No, there's a problem with a wheelchair athlete, I think, but the women safely negotiated their way through that. I think Jocelyn Jepkoski was the one who came closest to having an issue through there, which at this point in the race, when everything is fatiguing, the last thing you need is that sudden swerve and surge to move out of the way of an obstacle you weren't expecting to be stopped there.
You could see, look at that, Paula, we could see it had slowed. 5:28, by far the slowest mile. And since that split, that was a little while back, about a minute or two ago, then we've seen this injection of pace all of a sudden. The 2 Kenyans, 2 Ethiopians, and you could say that all 4 of these, I think Asefa will get selected anyway. I think Peres Jepchirchir, as the defending champion, is likely to be selected. The great Helen Obiri won in Boston on Monday, and I think she's going to be an athlete who the Kenyans cannot ignore, even though she doesn't have the fast times of the others. But these 4 people could be running themselves into the Olympic team for their respective nations.
Yeah, and I think you're absolutely right with the Helen Obiri shout, because I think given the Paris course, which is undulating, which by the way is not something that Tigist Asefa is particularly looking forward to. She thinks it's too hard. She thinks there are too many hills in there. I think that's a good test of a marathon, and I do think that Helen Obiri will be one to watch. come then, but now it's all about trying to tick off that, cement your name up there with the selectors. And I think the Kenyans and the Ethiopian athletes have talked about how difficult it is because it's not clear. Many of the countries have clear selection policies. For them, it really is about just trying to make sure that they have the strongest team out there, so they will leave it to the last moment to pick the women in the best shape.
Yeah, a little bit cat and mouse again here through this section. And weaving across the road, see that blue line there? That's theoretically, well, not theoretically, it is the shortest route, those blue dash marks. It looks as though the athletes are sort of following the bike or the vehicles in front.
You know what they're doing? They're weaving because it's windy.
Yes.
And it's like, don't sit behind me. Yep. I'm going to change positions.
This is exactly what we were talking about last night in the hotel about. You get on the embankment, that wind, if it's there, you'll feel it, certainly for the first part of it. Meanwhile, back in the men's race, everything as you were, pretty much. Not too much has happened. A little further back, hopefully we'll get a chance to see. Emil Keres is about 50 seconds ahead of the next British contingent, which is the race for the Olympic qualifying time. And we'll keep an eye on how that's progressing, because Mark Scott, Surafel in that group, and Mohammed in that group as well. Yeah, so we got at least 3 British athletes, not that far behind Emil Keres, who's still running at around 2.6 pace. But at the front, more like 2.3. The big names there. Mengesha, look, just deciding maybe to go. We were thinking about the pacing in this race was meant to be really good, but we've only got one pacer left, Paula, at this stage. He's getting a drink as well. He's going to try and keep going as long as he can. Apparently, maybe even to 35k. I'm not sure that he can necessarily do that. It would be good for the field if he could, given what we've seen happened in the women's race. But a little bit of a break up there, but I think they'll all just gather back together again.
Yeah, I was just watching again Kenenisa Bekele through that drink station, and the others started to panic a little bit. He was calm and serene. I thought he was going to miss his bottle. His bottle was on the very last table, and he left it to the very last minute to dive through, but he did get that. So that has broken them up a little bit, that splintering through the feed stations, but we do see that every time, and you're right, they will take the time just to make sure that they top up those glycogen reserves in their bodies, just keep their bodies fueled up, and then Concertina back up again into that group.
Well, I mentioned Emil, he looks good to me. He's moving very nicely. It's great that Jack is still there and keeping the pace going. This is good running. And Emil is around about the sort of 2:5:40 mark thereabouts. That record of Mo Farah's 2 hours, 5 minutes and 11 seconds. Again, if you get to the last 5k, you know, and you're really strong, you can really push on. You've got athletes coming back towards you as he grabs his drink. You get athletes from the lead group starting to come back towards you. You feel as though you're chasing, running down. You never know. I can tell you that Mari McLennan is still going strongly as the first of the British women, a long way on her own, and she's got a lonely last few miles, I have to say, and she's drifted out of the Olympic qualifying time that we mentioned they already had, but just drifting a little further away from that. But it's a good debut from her so far. And for Emil, only his second marathon. It was London last year where he ran 2:8:07, just 3 seconds inside the qualifying time. So Emil Keres looks very strong, and there you see the first of the athletes of the lead group is in sight of him now. I think that is Gobena up ahead, so he'll start to find he's got more and more of these people to work off in the closing miles.
He's also held the pace over that previous 5k, so he's still on that 2:5:40, 45 predicted.
Well, Paula, this is really interesting for me. You know, this part of the course here, they've got athletes going in the other direction. They're going to see Tower of London just ahead of them. That's always a big benchmark, isn't it? And you start to then drop down onto the embankment. What is the wind like? Is it in their face? We've seen them, as you said, drifting around the road. Nobody really at the front, although I have to say they're all kind of spread out here, and Asefa again is looking, saying, is this okay? Shouldn't we be going a bit quicker? Or, she just looks as though she's just waiting for the moment that she thinks is going to be right. And it's about a confidence thing, Paul. I remember she's run fast races, but this pulls it back to the likes of Perez Jepchirchir, who knows tactics much better or has more experience around that.
Absolutely, and it's not only the race tactics, it's also the comfort within the race. And Asefa, as we said, she's run 3 marathons. First one, well, we'd kind of discount that was a little bit of a test in the water. Then she comes in with a 2:15:37, and then she runs the 2:11:53. But she's not been in a pack of women racing around her. She's had men around pacing her that have been no danger to winning the race. Here, she's having to start to think about, what do I do? What do I try and shake them off? She's tried a few surges, hasn't really had much impact. It will have had some below the surface, because there's a reason that we all include fartleks in training. It is testing and it is hard, particularly when you've gone out as quickly as these women have.
Does it matter that she, in her time, has run sub 2 minutes for 800 metres, which is astonishing, or is that been trained out of her now? She's a marathon runner, so won't have that kick necessarily compared to the others around her.
I think the significant thing is the reason that she moved from the 800 to the marathon, and that's Achilles issues. So that's why she says that she can't run as fast as she would like to over the shorter distances. Contrast that to Sifan Hassan, who has sub 2 minutes and is able to put that into play at the end of the marathon. So yeah, I think she would be able to do it. I think her Achilles might be sore afterwards.
Again, a little bit of tension, if you like, at the water station, really pressing. And look at Perez, talking about experience. She had one quick look behind, so hang on, I've got 4 or 5 yards here. Let's just put a little tester in. They've reacted quickly. Asefa very, very sharply says, no, I'm not going to let you get away. Pulls the other 2 back to her, and then Perez just checks back again. She picked up a drink and didn't drink it. She just had a little look and thought, I wonder if I can get away here. So it's still in her hand. She will, I'm sure, now have a little bit of a drink as they settle down. But it was a sneaky little have a go, wasn't it?
It was. I think it was just a testing of it, and just a little bit of, you know what, I've been here before. I know the points where I could make a move. And also, if she does that now, and then coming up to another one further on, perhaps she's going to think, okay, 40k, I'll do that, and I'll keep going for real. Still hasn't drunk, mind you.
No. Pace still good, though. These women are heading for a women's only world record. They've let the pace they were running at drift a little bit, but that was in the 2:14 range. And bearing in mind that women's only world record set by Mary Keitany in 2017 is 2 hours and 17 minutes and 1 second, and they're way inside that still, even though they've slowed a little bit, and they're thinking about winning this race now. How do I get to the point where I can make the right decision, make the right move at the right time? Do I wait until the end? You mentioned Asefa. She says she can't really do much quick running these days because of her Achilles. I mean, Perez last year got out-kicked, if you like, by Alemu, because Sifan went away. It was Alemu in the, are we saying green? I don't know what colour we're saying.
Turquoise.
That's not turquoise, is it? Aquamarine? I don't know. Mint. Oh, well, I'll go with that. I'll go with mint.
I'm just saying foodstuffs today, basically.
I think you could say blue, because it's the only remotely blue one in there, and it's blue shorts.
It definitely isn't blue. Her shorts are blue. Is mint as in you just like the colour, or you mean, I see, just, yeah. Okay.
It's a quick response code, incidentally. It is response. Invented in the 90s by a Japanese company to label automobile parts. He said, straight from Wikipedia.
Thank you. Right, we saw the split there, and that was a slow 5k by the standards the women have been running. And what a beautiful view on a very sunny day in London. It is breezy, it is cool, but what a sight. The Shard looking resplendent in the sunshine. Tower Bridge packed. Tower of London, the marker point that says you've just got a few miles to go, and right in the distance they follow the river round towards Big Ben, which they'll be able to see, and that's where they turn towards Birdcage Walk. Now the elite men have just carried this pace going. Kenenisa Bekele, great to see him there, looking really strong. Manyao in the hat, and his teammate Mateko, the two Kenyans who are less experienced, particularly Mateko, who's not finished a marathon in his career yet, has raced with the fastest, but paced last year, the great Kelvin Kiptum. Will he be a factor? Then we've got Dawit Waldy, the former 1500 metre man. I remember commentating on him in World Championships at the track distance. Had made a good move up to the marathon. Still looking good. Mengesha is in the group there. Atana also just on in the mint on the left there.
Steve, just talking about Emil Caressa, we'll see in a moment as well. You're talking about people dropping off that first pack, and he has just raced past one of those who has dropped off that first group. Also lost one of his pacemakers, Emil Caressa, as we expected. But you must feel that you're making huge strides forward, because they've roared past.
Yeah, younger Boehner, we said, you know, only his second marathon, and his first one was in a very different environment in Dubai, and you know, that's, you know, you come to the big city marathon, everyone thinking you're going to do well, but there goes Emil running strongly. Jack has dropped out as we expected, and now he was hoping to have two pacemakers at this point, and that one of them could get him certainly beyond 30, which is good. So far that's happening, and crowds, I don't know if they're aware, you know, this is our top man now, this is our number one, this is Emil Caressa. Trains in Kenya, but a lot of miles on the towpaths around the canals in Leeds, part of that good group of folks up there doing really well. And Emil set his stall out today, said, I'm going for Mo's record. Well, that might be just a bit of a stretch too far, but he's still running really strongly. The main thing for him is to run a race which guarantees his selection for the Olympic Games. He was saying to us the other day, you know, I've only run one marathon. I wanted to come to London because I don't want to go to Paris with just one marathon in my legs. I want to see whether or not I can go to Paris as a contender. Can I run 2:5, 2:6? We know Paris won't be quick. It's a tough course, as Paula has said. And, you know, Emil is showing here that he's got good credentials, still running strongly. Here we go, Paula. Pace is gone.
Camera's gone. Baroness Tanny Gray-Thompson has handed me a colour palette, various shades of green, and the two that are closest to it are mint or seafoam, which I didn't know of seafoam, but I'm sticking with mint. But looking down on the Tower of London, again, these great landmarks of London and this marathon course. There's your
Do you know what? If the seafoam is that colour where you live,
I know. I'm
not getting in.
No,
I'm not getting in. Anyway, right. This is just cat and mouse, isn't it? Here, this is where they're dropping down, Paula, onto the embankment. There might be some shelter. We're not quite sure. You can see certainly at this point the buildings are in a position where they've got some shelter. Even those balloons look fairly calm, don't they? So. Let's see what happens here. Does anybody get excited? Does anybody start to think, I'll move away here? I'm always reminded about Stanley Biwott a few years ago. Was, I think in his first or second marathon, was running with Gebre Selassie and others. He got to this point, got way excited, ran really hard for 5k along the embankment, and then at 38k fell apart. So even the good runners have to just be careful.
Yeah, they've just ticked over that barrier that I talked about, going over the 2-hour marker, and it is 5k to go. So in their heads that feels like nothing. For most of the runners out there today, when they get to this point and they know there's only 5k left to go, that's their easiest easy run in training, and it's something that they should be able to do. But you're right, interplay here is certainly the speed that they covered the first half in, the fatigue in there, and then trying to second guess what the others have left, what do you have left, and that's why we're seeing these tactics, is chopping and changing at the front, each one taking their turn. Alemu is the only one who hasn't really taken a turn at pushing it on at the front. She'll move to the front, but she hasn't put her head down and put a little surge in, and almost spreading out across the road as they drop down here under, is it under the underpass yet? Not quite.
No, the underpass where you actually go downhill and then uphill again under Blackfriars, not quite there yet, but this area, there are various bridges over the top of the road along the embankment, and we have 4 women here. If you are just joining us, on the right, it's the Olympic champion, Peres Jepchirchir, never been out of the top 3 in a marathon in her career. Alemu of Ethiopia, who was second here last year behind Sifan Hassan. Then, next to her, Asefa, the new world record holder for the marathon, 2 hours 11:59 in Berlin last year. And then, former winner, Jocelyn Jepkosgei, won in 21, second in 22, in great form this year, came here with a very good half marathon preparation, and all 4 of them, any one of these women, have the credentials to win this.
And they are really just thinking about trying to win it now. I think gone at this point, although there was a lot of talk in the build-up about that women's only world record, stands at 2:17:01. They are still inside that pace, but they're quickly slipping back. So the last couple of miles, 5:28, 5:26, 5:22, 5:23. And if you think that the 2:15 pace is what, 5:09s, 5:13s for 2:17, which is what they're aiming for now. They are getting caught up in the racing situation. Somewhere in the back of some of their minds might be that fact that if they want that record, they're going to have to wake up and get back on that pace fairly soon now.
Yeah, this is what happened last year, isn't it? You know, and then suspected that. Mary McLennan, who's had a great race, this is her first ever marathon, first British athlete. The qualifying time for the Olympics, 2:26:50, is slipped away, but she's running strongly, running well in her very first marathon. The selectors are going to have an interesting meeting tomorrow. There's one spot available. She could yet, well no, she's quite a long way off 10th place, but if anyone drops out ahead of her, she's in 11th place at the moment. And now Paula at the front, a little bit of moving around. Look at Kenenisa Bekele, looks really strong to me. I'm really enjoying the fact that he's up there.
Yeah, I think a confident Kenenisa Bekele is a danger, even though, yeah, people are saying he's 42 now, can he figure with the likes of his compatriot Tola at the front? I think when he comes in, quietly confident, as relaxed as he has been, the other men will have taken notice beforehand, but if they haven't, this will have woken them up now, because he's there to the front saying, this isn't quick enough, guys. Come on, let's move it along.
I think it's water station, feed station, Paula. Let's see what happens after this, though. Does he really make this an opportunity, or take an opportunity? It's well broken up there all of a sudden, isn't it? And then you've got Mengeshu and you've got Tola trying to hang on to him here. The Ethiopians at the front here. The Kenyan response not really there just for the second, but they may well get back together. Well, as they go through Blackfriars there, Paula, this is where somebody... They're not thinking about the record anymore here. And this is my point about last year. And then I was chatting to folks at the press conference the other day, and I said, this is likely to happen. But the fact that they were so far ahead of schedule, even though they've slowed, and it will pick up at some point in the next mile or so, surely, still gives them a great chance of getting inside that record. But these 4 are not thinking about that now. They are thinking, how do I win?
And a 5:01 mile might help to break that up a little bit, particularly when we heard the miles that are listed before that. So when you flip from a 5:20 pace into a 5:1, that's hard. That is a significant injection of pace on tired legs at this point in the race. So expect to see at least one casualty from that now, perhaps within the next mile, perhaps within the next couple of 100 meters, because that certainly will ask questions, and that is a big lift on a little bit of an incline coming out of that underpass as well. There's no sign of cracking yet though, and still Tigges is alternating between look rounds, try and get an idea of the facial expressions of her competitors, and then a quick glance at her watch as well.
This is intriguing, isn't it? This is what we were expecting. When you get the big names together, you know, they're not going to sacrifice themselves trying to chase a time. They're not going to take that sort of risk, not when the title of London Marathon beckons for them and everything that means. And for both of these teams, if you like, Kenya and Ethiopia, winning London Marathon will cement them in their Olympic team if they want to race. So that's certainly, I think, from an Ethiopian perspective, they kind of go, were you second? That doesn't matter. Elemo almost tripping over Asefa there as they were grabbing for more water. But this is about winning now. And I always look at Jepchirchir in situations like this, because she couldn't quite do it last year because of Sifan Hassan's speed. In so doing, let Elemu come away for second. And does Elemu think, well, I beat Jepchirchir at the finish last year. Jep Kosgei, same thing. So she might not think, I don't need to do anything, I'm just going to wait, see what the others do.
You know, for Jocelyn Jep Kosgei as well, she wasn't really talked about by the organisers, by the others. She wasn't at the elite press conference she wasn't one of the big four that they put up there, so I think that rankled a little bit with her. And she is strong, and she can handle going out at this pace and still be able to respond.
Good crowds along the embankment. Those crowds will build because lots of people head out on different parts of the course to try and watch their friends and family, and then head back to this area later on. So the elites probably get the most sparse crowds that we'll see all day here. A little further back, Mohammed and Mark Scott are still going well in the men's race. There is Mark Scott, and Paul Sarafel has dropped back. I think it might have even dropped. I'm just checking on the split times, but certainly Mohammed is might even be ahead of Mark Scott, and is chasing Emil Keres. Emil Keres still heading for something around the 2:06 mark, but yeah, the Mo Farah record is definitely slipping away as the miles go by for him. But these 5 men here, they're running quick, Paula. We could be in for a sub 2:03. And if you said Kenenisa Bekele, you know, everything that he's done in his career, at approaching 42, is going to pop out at 2:03. For me, it's more about, I'd love to see him win London. You know, that for me would be a great thing.
And I think it's certainly something that he thinks is missing from his resume. It's missing from many of the men in here. In fact, I don't think we've got a man in the race today who has won the London Marathon before, so it's definitely all to play for. And I think the fact that they're allowing Bekele get to the front and to dictate the race, yes, of course the wind is a factor, but he's actually the shortest in that group, so he's not offering a huge amount of shelter to the men behind him either. But a little glance around from him now. He's had enough at the front now. He's done his little bit. It's someone else's turn.
10k to go for these men. We haven't really talked about Munyao, or sometimes Mutisu Munyao. Alexander is another of the shorter athletes, if you like. Now a little further back, yes, Mohammed is going well, and that, again, the qualifying time is 2 hours 8 minutes 10 seconds. Phil Sessman already selected. Emil Keres looked as though he's heading for the second spot. The third spot was going to be between Mohammed perhaps and Mark Scott. Both of them need to run the time because they haven't done it before, and they're both on schedule for that. But it's Mohammed who's now forging ahead. Mark Scott still running strongly, but starting to watch this Olympic third place opportunity disappear into the hands of Mohammed.
I think currently that gap is about 20 seconds between Mohammed and Mark Scott. And back to the front again, it's Jep Kosgei at the front, just trying. It looks like a slog now, doesn't it? It looks as though they're working really hard. We will get the next mile split come up, and I bet it's still pretty fast, even though it looks as though it's hard work. The bounce that was there earlier on isn't there, but they are still moving at pace.
Also with that east-northeasterly wind, it's actually sort of behind them at the moment. The final couple of 100 meters on the mile will be into the wind, but you should be able to make up a little bit of time coming along the embankment.
Well, the predicted time has now slipped to 2:16 and 19, and I still think we're going to see them. You can see those flags are blowing, but you're right, perhaps just off their right shoulder, just a little bit behind. And Jep Koskai is obviously thinking, somebody's got to go here. I think Asefa will perhaps try and wait. She's not been in this position before. Jep Chirchir will probably not wait till the last 300-400, but will maybe wait until the turn, maybe wait until birdcage walk, strong long effort, maybe from 800 out, maybe a kilometre to go, that sort of thing.
Yeah, I think, is it 1,200 metres from Big Ben? Pretty much. Once you make that turn, you're certainly into the last, what do we say, 3-4 laps. You're inside 4 laps to go if you were racing on the track, and I think that will be going through the mind certainly of Asefa. The others may be less likely to have that kind of track mentality coming into this, but as they make that turn, number one, the wind changes, so it changes direction. There's a little bit more shelter from the buildings, and you're really in your mind and mentally starting to visualize, when am I going to see Buckingham Palace, and then I'm going to make that very welcome final turn in front of us here on the Mall.
Jocelyn Jepkoskai in 2021 won the London Marathon, not on this course, of course. We were still in the COVID situation, but look at this here. The women's only marathon record, 2:17:01, is still in sight. Nobody in a race with only female pacemakers and other competitors, of course, clear of the mass race. Only Mary Katani has run, that time there stands still as the world record. So can one of these, maybe all 4 of them, get inside that? They're still on schedule, but the race has not really started in terms of who's going to try and win this. You see, Paula, you said through the Westminster Square there, and then birdcage walk. Surely one of them's got to have a go. Are we going to have 4 sprinting up the Mall from Buckingham Palace?
I think this is when you even start to think about where you're actually placed within that group, and thinking which direction are we going to make the turns in to make sure that I'm running the shortest distance around those turns. That will also come into play a little bit. You do have a couple of islands down this road as well, which might be significant if you're running behind and you haven't seen that, and you could split either side of that. There are a number of places that tactics can really come into play. How much will they have thought about that pre-race? I'm not sure, because I'm not sure they anticipated there being this kind of cat and mouse tactic playing out at this stage in the race.
Kenenisa Bekele, the great Kenenisa Bekele, has got rid of the favourites. Tola has gone in the men's race. He's still got Mengesha there, and he's got his teammate Munyao, who looks as though he's working really hard. Kenny keeps looking around. The wind is flapping those flags. It undoubtedly is having some sort of effect, but it's not slowing down Kenenisa Bekele. Surely, Paula, you're going to say, stop looking round. Look ahead, concentrate on trying to break this race even further, but 3 are away.
No, I mean, I think there's a difference in the amount of looking behind there, and that is not a concerned looking around. I think it's almost a little bit of disbelief. I'm not sure he can quite compute that he's put in a surge and he's managed to whittle this down very easily to a group of 3. So I think that's what he's doing, is really checking around him, perhaps also looking and thinking, okay, if you're going to slot in behind me, I'd rather he came up alongside and we could kind of run 3 abreast here.
Well, if the crowds aren't aware, one of the world's greatest distance runners ever, they're at the front, and at the front of the women's race, we've got 4. Look at this. Jep Koskai closest to the camera, former winner, Olympic champion on the far side. They're the 2 Kenyans. Bookmarks at the minute for the Ethiopians. Alemu just gets checked out there by her teammate Asefa, the world record holder, the outright world record holder. But all of these women heading perhaps for the women's only record, but they won't care about that just now. It's how do I win? How do I find the legs? How do I find the speed in these closing meters to win the London Marathon? They've still got a few hundred to go.
And there's a jostling, a huge push there from Peres Jepchirchir. She had pole position. I think she was worried she was going to be cut off by Asefa, and she does it again. She's made an early drive for it now, and look at that.
She was never going to leave it until the last 200 or 300, Peres Jepchirchir. She's the strongest always in the closing stages, but isn't necessarily always the quickest. I've seen her get out-kicked before, but she's not going to let that happen today. The Olympic champion, Peres Jepchirchir. She said the other day, I need to come to London and be strong because I want to get picked for the Olympic Games. It's hard to get on the Kenyan team. I said, you're the Olympic champion. She said, it doesn't matter. I have to run well in London. And she's proven her fitness, her ability, her tactical nous. And will it be a women's only world record? We're watching the clock ticking away in the corner. She's got to run inside 2 hours and 17 minutes. She's going to do it. Peres Jepchirchir, one of the greatest marathon runners we've ever seen, has an incredible record. Never finished outside the top 3. And this time, she's going to win London in incredible style. And it's going to be a new women's only world record. Jepchirchir is the champion. Brilliant performance from her. The world record holder takes second place, and then Jepkoss again gets onto the podium at London, the former winner. All 3 of them were inside the record, the old women's only record, and Alemu has to settle for 4th. She's a very, very popular athlete, Peres Jepchirchir, on the circuit. She's always helped other people. My goodness, she says, a world record in a women's only race, but perhaps more importantly, she wins the London Marathon, and she'll be back in Paris to defend her title if that was ever in doubt.
I think that will have done a huge amount of good to her confidence. An outstanding run from her. She didn't even have to take her hat off, and I'm sure she was planning that at some point within that race. That might have been one of the little tactics, but more importantly than that, the world record holder behind her easily beaten over that final 400 meters, and I think that's significant for her, that she's not going to give that up without a fight in Paris, and she's shown that today.
I love watching her race. You know, she's a great champion. It's the consistency. You know, Peres has huge respect for the marathon distance, has huge respect for her competitors, but what she doesn't do is get worried about times. You know, that for her is the fastest marathon she has ever run, in a women's only or not, but to her the most important thing is winning, and she is a winner. You know, she continues to have this incredible record in her marathon career, and like you said, Paula, she will start as favourite in Paris.
And I think the key word that you used there was respect, and I think we see that from Peres time and time again. I'm not sure we've always seen that from a safe, and I think she came into this race deceptively thinking it was going to be perhaps easier than it's turned out to be. So she's learned a lesson about the marathon and respecting the marathon distance today.
Well, we're down to 2 in the men's race. Look at him, he's waving. He's acknowledging either the crowd or perhaps some shouts from the other runners going in the other way. They all know Kenny, so it's Ethiopia versus Kenya, as it often has been right throughout Bekele's career. He's outkicked some of the best on the track. He raced the great Eliud Kipchoge all the way back in 2003 at the World Championships. When he'd won the 10,000, he tried to win the 5,000. Kipchoge outkicked him and El Garouge. That started a great rivalry, which I'm not sure he would have predicted would end up in the marathon. But could Kipchoge and Bekele be facing each other in the Olympic marathon in Paris 21 years after the 2 of them raced on the track at 5,000 meters? That would be phenomenal. Business to take care of here first, though. Can he beat Munyao?
And that would be a mouth-watering prospect, wouldn't it? But I think it's something that actually Bekele has believed for a long time, as we go back to Emile Caresse, all on his own now, but still looking strong.
Yeah, he's slowed from the British record pace, but he's still running a very good time. He's heading for a personal best, but he just needs to be aware of this. Mohammed, I think, is running stronger at the moment. There's a big gap, but there's a lot of time left in this race, and he's having an exceptional run. And he knows that the chance to represent Great Britain at the Olympic Games is within his grasp. Hold it together in the closing miles. 2 hours, 8:10. He's well inside that sort of schedule. And more importantly, perhaps for him, he's ahead of the other British contenders, including Mark Scott.
Absolutely, just waiting for the times to come up, but they are through 35 kilometres. Emil Caress has worked himself up into 8th position and is just outside that 2.6. As you said, we're still waiting for the time to come through for Mohamed. He was on that 2.7 low predicted pace, and you can see down in that long shot behind him, that is a long way of empty road behind him. So he's clear at the moment there, and his eyes need to be focused ahead on who can he reel in.
Well, the gap has closed to round about 50 seconds between Mohamed and Emil Caress. Emil is still running low end of 2.6. Mohamed heading perhaps for sub 2.7 or round about 2.7. Two great runs from the British athletes thus far, but all eyes just for the time being at the front. Manyao, this again diminutive stature, you know, some of the Tola is by far the tallest of the main contenders. Bekele will not know Manyao very much. You know, he'll be thinking, okay, you know, I've made the bid, I've got rid of the people I know, the ones who are expected to do well, and definitely Manyao came here as one of the respected athletes we thought could run well in this race, but Kenenisa won't be too familiar with him.
He won't, but he'll be learning and assessing now, and I'm not sure it's that big of a factor, because I'm not sure Kenenisa's ever been that familiar with his main contenders until he gets into the race. He tends to focus on his own training and make sure that he's in the right shape to go out and do what he wants to do, and then worry about who might be with him at that point. So he'll be assessing, taking on bits of information about how Manyao feels at certain points in the race and forming in his head his plan for the finish.
Yeah, it looks to me like he's really testing Bekele now. Manyao is one of the best half-marathon runners in the world, 4th fastest ever, and goes back a little bit to Valencia a few years ago. He won Prague last year, 2 hours 5, so he knows how to win. Prague's one of the, not one of the 6 big majors, but it's one of the top races in the world. But you have to time your effort here right in London. You can't get too excited too early. And he just needs to, well, both of them will want to be patient, but Kenenisa's been here before, but he's never, ever won. He's never found a way to finish in a way which takes him on top of the podium, but he's looking for a top 2, certainly at the very least here.
Yeah, I think that's Anya Culling that they've just moved past it as well there, and I think Manyao's taken a little bit of a chance to try and put a little bit of a surge in and see whether he could break or test in any way or sense any kind of weakness from Kenenisa Bekele. There still is that looking around. I don't know why he's looking left and right, because there isn't a person on both shoulders, there isn't a competitor on either shoulder. There only is Manyao that he needs to worry about at this point. And what is going through Manyao's head? Because I think when you're racing with somebody else at this point in the marathon, you start to think, what can you do to break them? What can you do to put in place a winning move? But when it's Kenenisa Bekele, you've really got to figure that again and rethink all of that.
The welcome sight of Big Ben for Murray McLennan in her first race. She looks a little tired now, but there's a smile on her face. She's heading to be the first British athlete. She'll be just outside the top 10, I think. I think she's going to be 11th in the women's race. But in your first London Marathon, that's no mean feat at all. The Olympic selection will not be considering her because she won't get the qualification time. There's a deliberation to be had for the 3rd spot tomorrow. That's up to the selectors. But for McLennan, this is a great first experience. She looks tired, she's working hard. She give it a go, certainly set off at a pace to at least give herself a chance, but she's stuck to her task really well.
Yeah, she committed and she'd worked hard, and now she'll be getting a huge amount of support, and that adrenaline will keep her going down this final 1,200 metres or so into that finish.
Well, she'll be hoping to still break 2:30, which in your first marathon is very, very good. Just rocking and rolling a little more than a mile or two back, Mohamed. Is he starting to feel it, the effort to pull away from the others? But he's getting great support there, and he won't be able to see Emil Caress at all. Emil's still running pretty strongly, but he's on his own now. There he is, Emil Keres, a little further ahead, heading for a massive personal best. Again, these two men trying to join Phil Sessamon, who's already been selected. Phil was pacing one of the groups further back, but Emil with a top 10 finish here, and Mohammed perhaps heading for a top 10 finish as well. In fact, he has moved into 10th place, so yes, 2 British men in the top 10 here, 2 of them running very, very quickly, and he could be heading to be the second fastest British man ever at the marathon, because it sits with Mo Farah and then Steve Jones after that, and both of these men, perhaps, certainly Emil and maybe even Mohammed could run quicker than the great Steve Jones.
Still no change here, really, isn't it? Although there will be a lot has changed there, but in terms of demeanour and in terms of being able to get a read on who might have a little bit more left, there's still that slight pushing on from Munyao, asking a little bit of a question, but immediately Michaela responds.
Really enjoying this, and you know, Munyao is a brilliant up-and-coming marathon runner who's shown he can win at the very top level. The Kenyans will be delighted with his performance here, and were he to win, that will give him a great chance of being on the team, because the Kenyans and the Ethiopians have both said this is an important race for Olympic selection. We are expecting, funny enough, Eliud Kipchoge to be selected for the Kenyans, but who else is going to be in the team for them? They have so many to choose from. But winning London is a big, big deal. Bekele on the right for Ethiopia, the great champion, 20 world titles on the track, cross-country, 8 Olympic gold medals. Just incredible career, but has never, ever, ever won London. And this would be something special for him and for the sport, I think. So it's not to take anything away from Munyao, because we always look for great new champions as well, and he could be one of them.
And there's still trying to get a look at their faces and some of these closer shots, just to try and get a read. There's a little bit more focus, definitely, on the face of Kenenisa Bekele, a little bit less looking around from him, certainly just eyes down, stick to the task for Munyao.
Just to give you some information a little further back, Mark Scott has kind of slipped off Olympic qualifying pace, so it looks as though Mohammed just needs to keep going, and he's going to be okay. And talking about keeping going, Mari McLennan just outside the top 10, getting great support from the huge crowds that have gathered here at Buckingham Palace, and these crowds will only get bigger as the day progresses. She's tired, struggling to lift those legs, get the knees moving, but what a welcome sight this is. In your first ever London Marathon, to finish as the best British athlete is never a mean feat. Yes, it would have been a special, special dream to perhaps get the Olympic qualifying. That's not going to happen, but she wants to get under 2:30. That's a big benchmark for any marathon runner. She's tired, she's struggling to lift her legs a little bit, but she's managing to do it. And McLennan is going to get under 2.5 hours. Well done, really stuck to her task well, give it a real go, and was strong when the pacemakers dropped out. But congratulations, McLennan, on a new personal best, of course, because it's her first marathon, and under 2.5 hours in your debut is an exceptional run. First British athlete to cross the line in the women's race. The selectors tomorrow will then debate the relative merits of the others, with just one place available. But the race for the men's team, with 2 places available, is still up for grabs. Emil Keres being chased by Mohammed, and now at the front here, Munyao making the break along the embankment. Bekele is looking behind, and that's always a sign that you're not concentrating on trying to catch the man ahead.
That's telling. That's not the composed looking to either side that we were seeing before. That is a worried look behind, another check of my watch, just to make sure is Kenenisa Bekele settling for the second here? Not really a lot he can do about it. I'm sure he'd been able to go with Munyao than he would have done, but this is significant. Munyao not wanting to leave it till later on, making sure that he could break any type of finish from Kenenisa Bekele before they make this turn off the embankment.
We were talking about it just before we went to see McLaren finishing in the women's race, you know, reading the faces of athletes. And I could see Bekele was more than a grimace. He was really starting to look uncomfortable, and it was just in the last 500 meters. And there's sort of a composure of Munyao as well. You can see that sort of focus. And you were saying eyes down, business at hand.
Well, there's two things at play there. There's the kick in the stomach almost for Bekele, who's not able to respond and go with it. But then there's the surge of energy that it gives to Munyao because he's done it. He was trying to break him. It might have had a few other goes in his mind plan, thinking if I don't do it this time, I'll have another go. I'll try and break him again. But he's managed to do it the first time of asking significantly in this race. So that will give him an extra surge of energy. Still has got a fair way to go though, so he needs to keep going.
Yeah, Kenny looks a little tired though, doesn't he, Leggy? And you know, let's not. He is a great athlete, but you get into your 40s and still be pushing. I know shoes are helping these days, and he himself has said it's given him a little bit of a new lease of life. Incidentally, he's left his long-time management group. He's pretty much on his own now, does his own thing, but he seems so much more relaxed. He's, you know, come to London with no pressure, and look, he's putting in a great performance, but it's not quite good enough at this point to look at a victory, and it's going to be Munyao. He just goes for his last feed, his last drink, has a little look behind. Here's Emil Keres. Now, if he looks behind, he would see that Mohammed isn't too far behind him, but Emil looks as though he's rallying here, just picking up again. The gap was down to about 40-45 seconds, but I think it may well be extending. But isn't it great to see two British men in the top 10 and running so fast?
That's the thing. I think it's really great to see them up there, but it's really great to see them up there running so quickly and so composed. And for me, there's very little change on the face and demeanour of Emil Keres over the last 5-10k almost. Mohammed, you can see he's working hard. Of course he's working hard. He's smashing his personal best at the moment. He probably is getting that information that, you know what, Emil is not that far up the road ahead of him, and he will be getting the information of how far ahead he is of the next British person behind him. I think it was Mark Scott, and still is Mark Scott, I think, but significantly ahead of that.
Well, Munyao is still heading for a sub-2-4 clocking if he can keep this going. He's been right in that zone in his career so far, you know, 2-3 is his mark sort of thing, and you know, to do it in London against such a good field, he looks tired as well. But I think he knows there's no threat really, not at this point anyway. It's still 2 kilometres and anything can happen, we know that. But this looks a little bit of a stretch too much for the great Kenenisa Bekele. Looks very, very tired. I think they both look tired. The pace isn't picking up, they're both slowing. But nonetheless, they've done the hard work, they've put in the really hard miles, they've broken all of the other athletes, and he just needs to concentrate on this last mile or so.
Yeah, he just needs to concentrate. I'm not sure he's quite in the last mile yet. Watch out for the red telephone box, because that is 1 mile to go. You sometimes can't see it because the crowds are so thick along this point, but it is just about focus for all of them, for pretty much every runner out there. When you get to this point in the race today, it is about survival. It is about making that welcome turn off the embankment and then thinking about just getting to the finish.
The two British men are reeling in some of the athletes who just went a little too hard, trying to stay with the pace being set at the front. It was set for Tola, really, certainly to run 2-3, maybe inside 2-3. He wasn't able to stay with that. It was these two men here, Munyao and Kenenisa Bekele, who picked up the gauntlet, and then gradually the two of them were left to battle it out. And look at Munyao now. Even he has shortened his stride, looking at his watch. I think for me now it would just be get on with it. Keep concentrating, keep looking ahead. One foot in front of the other. Don't worry about what's happening behind, because he's quite a long way and it's really not much of a threat in their sense of anything or any evidence of this gap closing.
No, and I think that long shot is deceptive as well. He's further away than you think he is, and there is Alice Wright, who looks as though something's gone a little bit certainly wrong for her there, and hoping she's okay. But Manyao will just be able to focus on that. Doesn't need to look at his watch, as you said, other than the fact that perhaps he's thinking, what time can I run? Because this victory should be wrapped up. We'll say never ever write off Kenenisa Bekele, but still.
Paula, I think Emil Keres has moved into third place. I said they're passing people on the embankment, both Keres and Mohamed, just passing people all of the time. And I think Emil is now into third place with just 2 kilometers to go. Mohamed's in fourth, both of them heading for an incredible time, and Mohamed is only 30 seconds behind Keres. And he's getting quicker, even though he looks as though he's rocking and rolling a little bit more, both of them. There you go, there's the evidence of it. Keres, 2.5 minutes plus behind, a little more of a gap then to Mohamed. These 2 men are going to book their places in the Olympic, I nearly said bus, I think they might be getting the train, who knows. But Mohamed can see Emil Keres, and we have seen people finish that strongly that you can make up 30-odd seconds, but what a race by the pair of them.
Absolutely, and you know, you mentioned buses, you talk about waiting for a bus and then 2 come along at once. We've waited a long time for a British man to get on the podium here in the London Marathon. I think it goes back to Eamon Martin winning it in 1993, and now we've got 2 of them fighting it out for that 3rd spot.
Well, this is brilliant. Mohamed, who's had 2-3 goes before, he's come close to the qualifying time. Occasionally, he's gone a bit hard and then struggled in the closing miles. We've seen that from him before, but he's got better and better and stronger, and he knows today he could be booking his place in the Olympic team, but he's got a teammate ahead of him. There he is, Emil Keres, who looks tired now. Is he aware of the chasing teammate behind him? He knows he just needs to stay strong to make sure that he's okay and books his place as well, but he wants to come in the top 3. 3rd and 4th at the moment, 2 British men who both are going to run quicker perhaps than the great Steve Jones. Not far to go now, but who is going to get onto the podium?
And you're saying, is he aware that he's been chased down by Mohamed? Do you think he's aware he's in 3rd position? Because those people have stepped aside. He hasn't caught all of them ahead of him. Some of them have just stepped off. So in his mind, I'm not sure he will have yet registered that he's there. Certainly from how he's checking his watch, he knows he's on for a personal best. He knows how well he's running.
Here is the man who's going to win a London Marathon, Alexander Mutisu Manyao. A great run from him. He looks very tired. He doesn't have to raise a sprint though, because he's managed to break the rest of the field, including the great Kenenisa Bekele. He's looking lost there, followed the bike, and just for a second there, no, Unique will take a right-hand turn, and now he'll see the finish line ahead of him. It was the great Kelvin Kiptum who won for Kenya last year, sadly with us no more. But isn't it great and isn't it fitting that another young Kenyan follows in his great footsteps to come and take the title at London in a time which won't matter to him. It's still a quick run, it's still a great performance. Manyao is the champion in 2024. He wins the London Marathon with a glance behind to one of the greatest athletes of all time just behind him. What a performance from him, and what a return to superb form for Kenenisa Bekele. The great champion will acknowledge the win, I'm sure, from Manyao. Just didn't have the legs to catch this great Kenyan talent who's shown what a consistent performer he is. That's his second big victory, but this is the biggest one of his life. Alexander Manyao wins, looking nice and strong at the end there, but that was a hard race.
That was a hard run and a hard-fought victory, and he had to beat the great Kenenisa Bekele, who even in that shot is still looking around him. I don't know what he's looking around for, but for him to maybe cement his position, can we say he's put himself into the Ethiopian team? I certainly think Manyao has put himself right in there in the reckoning to step into that Kenyan team. He did what was asked of him on the day, and he can't do any more than that. Everyone out there today will know that you can only give your best on the day, and for Alexander Monyao it's been enough, and for Kenenisa Bekele it still might be enough.
Well, we really enjoyed that, but they might forgive us for looking back down the road, because I've enjoyed watching two great performances from our British men here. Emile Keres is tired, he went for it. He committed to try and have a go, have a pop at Mo Farah's British record. That's going to stand for a little while yet. Who knows how much longer though, because Emile has shown here that he's capable of mixing it with the best, as indeed as Mohamed Mohamed, who chased hard. It's a great second half of the race for Mohamed Mohamed. He's not quite going to catch Emile Keres, but the two of them are going to finish as the second and third fastest ever British athletes behind Mo Farah in the marathon. Emile is very, very tired and is just looking at his watch again, because you see the finish line, you see the big clock, you think, I'm okay here. And I think Paula's right. I'm not sure that he knows his third, because there would have been 8-9 men ahead of him. He doesn't know who dropped out, who he's passed, and he'll be elated when he finds out he's on the podium. But he's heading for a sub 2:7 clocking. That's a great, great performance in his second ever marathon, and he's going to be representing Great Britain at the Olympic Games for its third in the London Marathon for Emile Keres. Brilliant run, that was hard, but congratulations to him. And if he has a little look behind, he's gone, were you first, were you second, who won? And just behind him, what a run that is from Mohamed Mohamed. Just outside 2 hours and 7. These two men will be selected to join Phil Sessamon, but more importantly, no, not more importantly, to them that will be an opportunity of a lifetime. But to come third and fourth, two British men in the London Marathon, that is brilliant.
It is a really, really good position. It has been pointed out to me that, of course, Mo Farah did get a third position in there as well, but still great to see that third and fourth position there. And there's Hassan Shadi, who was struggling early on, actually consolidated really well and managed to fight through. I'm not sure he knows that he's just come in fifth either.
Yeah, there have been athletes who've had to drop out. Emile wouldn't have known that while he was running. And you know, all the hard miles, as I said, on the towpaths in Leeds, the hard miles up in E10, training with the Kenyan group there. And for Mohamed Mohamed, finally putting together such a strong performance, well-judged performance. You know, he went off at a slower pace, picked it up, didn't have as much help further down the course, and stuck to his task brilliantly just for a little while. Thought he might be able to chase Emile, but the two of them stayed incredibly strong. And as the Olympic qualifying time has just clicked by 2 hours 8 and 10, they'll not long be followed. I think Mark Scott will be coming in the next couple of minutes or so. But look at that, a British athlete on the podium again. Monyao, the champion. Kenenisa Bekele, one of his great runs at the age of 41, and Emile Keres announcing, as he wanted to do, his credentials to go to the Olympic Games and represent Great Britain very well, I'm sure, in the marathon. Third in London and a new personal best, and the second fastest British athlete of all time. That's a good run from Tesfaye as well. He started with Emile a little bit further down. So the Eritrean coming through in 8th place. We think Mark Scott's going to be just outside the top 10. Be interesting to see. Of course, it wasn't just British athletes who were chasing that 2 hours 8:10. There were others who were in it. I think we've just come past the commentary box. Here's Pfeiffer of Germany, who's going to miss that time. There's Atana, who was right up there, wasn't he, until about 35k, and that's a tired runner.
That's what happens when you hit the wall and you carry on running. And look at the fatigue. There's no response to Pfeiffer as he comes past him. There's nothing that he can muster. He's just trying to get his body across the line.
Well, as ever, London has given us a couple of great races in the elite events. And there's our EastEnders pair. I wonder how it will end.
Anyway, I think Coronation Street running the Tokyo Marathon they went for last month. They decided different tactics.
Well, they're getting plenty of support, and they've got a long way to go. That's Cutty Sark, 6.5 miles. The Gypsy Moth Pup was there. Wasn't that the great Francis Chichester? Wasn't that his...
1, 2, 3, 4.
Broke
yes,
the record for
Chichester,
across the
Gypsy
Atlantic.
Moth, yes.
Long time ago.
Sorry, I've just seen Mark Scott coming past us in the commentary box. That distracted me slightly, just flying past us in the mile.
There he is, and for Mark, that's a great debut. He gave it a go for the Olympic qualifying. He's never run a marathon before, and he's finished strongly enough. He'll be wiser. He'll have confidence from that. 2:11 as a debut. Look at that, he's just going. I can see it's that familiar. The legs, the quads, the hamstrings, they're tired. Great track runner, sub-13 man, and at 5,000 meters, quick at 10,000, and his first taste of the marathon there will be one which he'll definitely learn from, and I'm pretty sure he'll be back and he'll be able to go quicker.
That's rear wheel drive on that bus now. That's sort of skewed round a little bit. You look at Mark Scott, and he's a very different build to a lot of conventional marathon runners, the elite marathon runners. You see, he's a powerful figure, isn't he?
Well, the thing they often said about Kenenisa was he's shorter than Mark, but that kind of chunkier stature was one which isn't always one which is helpful. More muscle mass that is great on the track isn't always so good in the marathon. But I remember, I always talk about the great Douglas Wakahuri, who had the biggest quads I'd ever seen on a marathon runner. He was you remember him, Paula. So it takes all sorts and shapes.
Steve Jones.
But also remember that the muscle is where you store the glycogen. So the more muscle you have that you're able to carry around, the more lean muscle, then the better really for a marathon, providing you don't go over the tipping point, of course. There's a sweet spot.
Fair point. Somewhere between that and Jeff Capes. He was a sprinter. So a reminder of the results that we have seen so far in the elite races, and no real surprise in the men's wheelchair. Marcel Hug taking the title again, 4th in a row, 5th overall ahead of Daniel Romanchuk, winner in 2019. David Weir on his 25th consecutive London Marathon on the podium again, and 2 Japanese. Well, Tomoki Suzuki was really in that top 4 all the way, but couldn't challenge for the podium. But Hug taking it again. And in the women's race, well, another Swiss victory as well, and again, pretty predicted. In fact, the Swiss 1-2, although Catherine de Bruyne was a long way clear of Manuela Scher. De Bruyne taking her 2nd London Marathon victory, and Tatiana McFadden, who has won this title 4 times back in the 2010s, the American coming home in 3rd place. And Eden Rainbow Cooper, we saw her just struggling after she finished there, 6th place for the Boston Marathon winner last weekend.
The Olympic champion Peres Jepchirchir wins London Marathon in a big new personal best and breaks the women's only world record. 2 hours 16:16 her winning time. The top 4 women were inside the old record. What a race from them. But Asefa, the outright world record holder, and the former winner Jep Kosgei having to settle for 2nd and 3rd. Great names on that list then. In 11th place, Mary McLennan of Great Britain, first British athlete home. Alexander Mutiso Munyao follows Kelvin Kiptum as the winner of the London Marathon, so Kenya winning it 2 years in a row. Kenenisa Bekele, that's the closest he's ever come to winning London at the age of 41. Great performance from him. But hats off to Emil Keres, getting on the podium with a new personal best, 2nd fastest British athlete of all time. And Mohammed in 4th place, massive personal best for him. The 2 of them cementing their places, I'm sure, in the British Olympic team. Well, our attention will shortly turn to all of the thousands and thousands of people who are out there on the course and will be for the coming hours. For many, the race has hardly started. This is back at Cutty Sark, just around the 6 mile point, where the crowds are still huge and will be for quite a long time. Goodness me, I had a little bit of a shock there, but you know, he's wearing a leotard. My word. But yes, the conditions pretty good today, slightly overcast now. There is a bit of a stiff breeze along the river, but it's not going to dampen the spirits of any of these folks, and we'll be following their stories over the next couple of hours. After they, I'm sure, will find out what great elite races we've had to absorb, but now it's their turn.
Well, a huge thanks for now to our commentary team of Steve Cram, Andrew Cotter, Paula Radcliffe and Baroness Tanni Gray-Thompson. The elite races are over and they're out there on the course in the masses, and we've got all our reporters in their positions as well, chatting to them throughout the afternoon as the crowds cheer them on, the sun gives them energy, and of course you do that too with the messages that are coming in from you. We'll hear those a little bit later on. The road is long. The finish is in sight for some, but the memories they will have, well, they will live for a very, very long time. Hello and welcome to our new position here on the Mall, where the elite runners have come down here with their super fast times, and very shortly the masses will start coming through as well with their amazing stories. And we are on air with you on BBC One until 2 o'clock, and then we're switching over to BBC Two until 3 o'clock. The highlights are on this evening as well. We have it all covered for you, as well as of course those shout outs and the playlist which has been composed by Adele coming up a little bit later on. So much more for you to come over the next few hours or so, but I'm delighted to say that Alexander has joined me on, looking so fresh, having just won the men's elite race. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
How did you find it out there on the course today? The old man, Kenenisa Bekele, was giving you a run for your money, wasn't he, there in the last stages of the race?
First of all, I'm happy for winning the race of today, which is my first major marathon. And at 40 kilometers, let's say it's 38 kilometers, got some pressure from Kenenisa Bekele, but I had a lot of confidence because I had trained for this race. So I say that let me be confident. I did the last minute. After 40 kilometers, I thought I was energy enough to win today's marathon. So
that's when you really kicked in.
So that's why I kicked. And when I see a gap ahead, I was happy because I knew that I will win in the name of the Lord.
Now you're carrying your shoe or a shoe with you here, and that's got your time on there.
Yes.
Is that a time that's going to secure you a place in the Kenyan team for the Paris Olympics?
I hope to be considered in Olympics team because I think I am capable to run in Olympics team. Yes.
What would that mean to you?
That winning today's major marathon, it has given me confidence to do better in future races. Yes.
And you were all running today, you elite men, with the knowledge and I'm sure the thought in your minds of Kelvin Kiptum as well, of course, who was the winner last year, the world record holder. Did you think about him and his memory today?
Yes, in fact I think about him and let him rest in peace, because I personally did the first marathon with him in Valencia, and he won the race. The following year he came here in London, he won. Then he went there again, he ran world record. So let him rest in peace. Yes.
Yeah, well, a great performance from you today. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
And I hope you get that spot on the Kenyan team.
Thank you.
Well done.
Thank you.
Well, the fastest British man today was Emile Caresse. There he is. He was hoping today might be the day that he would eclipse Mo Farah's British record, but not quite today. A great run, though, for Emile Carrès. He's joined me in the studio. Still in your vest. Haven't even managed to get your tracksuit top yet, Emile.
No.
Talk me through your race today and how you felt.
I felt good, yeah. It was windy. I stuck to my race plan, and luckily I managed to move up into third place, so I'm really proud of that.
So in terms of what this does for your potential selection for the Olympic Games?
Yeah, it pretty much means I'm selected, I'm in the team. I think the selection meetings tomorrow, but I'll definitely be there.
You think that's done now, it's a cert?
Yeah, no, definitely.
Well, that's put pressure on the selectors, hasn't it?
Yeah, no, exactly.
It was a risk, wasn't it, running here for you?
Yeah, it was a risk, but I prepared really well, and I needed to do another marathon before the Olympics, so it's a risk that paid off.
Absolutely. And you said it was a bit windy. Do you think that wind accounted for perhaps those seconds that would have taken you closer to that British record?
Yeah, I don't think today the British record, I don't think I had the fitness maybe, but I think I could have gone under 2:06. And also I just want to say, like, in my preparation, I had a really stressful couple of months. My cousin Oliver, he was in the car crash.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And it was a really tough time, but he's come through it, and this was for him today, and I was emotional this morning, and this was for him today, so I'm really proud to run for him.
When things got a bit hard today.
Yeah, I definitely remembered him, and I'm so proud to be able to do it for him.
Yeah, well, Emile, I think a lot of people think that you elite racers are just thinking about times and thinking about qualification, but actually, like a lot of the masses, you have other personal reasons to run.
Yeah. No, especially today, it's not all about the time and performance. It's about how much you can give and inspire, and I'm really proud of myself today.
Congratulations.
Cheers,
well
thank
done
you very
on
much.
the performance, and we'll all cross our fingers for you that news is official and that you will get that place in the Olympic team for Paris. Thank you
Cheers,
so much.
thank you very much.
Yeah, the very best of leads there, Emile Carrès. And he's off. We have had a women's only world record today. Peres Jepchirchir, there she is crossing the line in a time of 2 hours, 16 minutes and 16 seconds, and she is popping into the studio to have a chat with us now. Peres, look, there you are with the absolutely beaming smile on your face, still wearing your beanie hat as well as you cross the line there. That was a fantastic race, a brilliant time, obviously a new women's only world record, and I know from your pre-race interviews, really important for you to put in a performance and get a place in the Kenyan team for the Olympics.
Feel grateful, and I'm so happy for today's victory. I was not expecting to run a world record. I knew we will make it, we will run, but I was not expecting to be me.
Well, the talk was there could be a world record with 3 of the fastest 4 times ever out there on the course in terms of the women that were around you, and you really pushed each other today. It was a really compelling race until the latter stages.
Yeah, I know we were strong, ladies were strong. So for me, I was working extra hard because my time was lower, and I thank God today I've run PP, only women record, yeah.
And you said you wanted a place in that Olympic team. You are the defending Olympic champion. Do you feel confident you can go double gold and take the victory in Paris as well?
Yeah, I'm so happy, and I feel grateful, and I'm happy too to be in Paris for Olympic marathon. My prayer is to be there, and my prayer also is to run good to defend my title. I know it's not easy, but I'll try my best.
Well, you guys do make it look very easy, but we know it's tough out there on those streets, and it was a bit windy out there as well today, wasn't it? But you handled conditions well, handled the opposition well today, so congratulations, Peres.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming to talk to us. So we have loads coming up for you this afternoon, some brilliant stories of incredible people out there on the streets of London today, raising money for great causes, doing it for their own personal reasons. Some of these are on your way. Just call me Dave. We meet the running telephone, Dave Locke, who loves to run rings around everyone. He's raised over £50,000 for the Samaritans in the past 30 years, but in that time, he's also endured a fair share of heartache. His story is why days like today matter. EastEnders have put the London Marathon as a storyline which focuses on the loss of a loved one from a brain tumour. We catch up with actors Jamie Borthwick and Emma Barton, who are running today, and we're also going to meet marathon marvel Amy, who tells us what it's like to live with the condition. The mini marathon is a massive event with so many children now taking part. It all happened yesterday, and we'll meet some of the winners who could also turn out to be champions of the future. And we'll catch up with so many special people taking part today and hear their stories as they go the distance for reasons very close to their hearts. Such a special day. Have you still got energy to do that? And we'd love you to get involved too. Send us your good luck messages. Use the QR code, which is going to appear on the screen right now. Or you can WhatsApp us on 0330 123 1826. You can also use the hashtag BBC Marathon or text us on 81111. Now though, we're going to get out on those streets, so keep your eyes peeled. You might spot that special somebody out there today. And it is very much a day, isn't it, of inspiration, perspiration and motivation. Everybody coming together to enjoy this life-affirming experience of running the London Marathon. It's such a lovely day.